Capítulo 1. Giro del destino. No mucha gente creería en el efecto mariposa, pero una palabra cambió todo para Naruto Uzumaki, pero no solo para él. En la noche robó el pergamino prohibido. Estas palabras fueron dichas por Mizuki. Toca a Iruka-sensei otra vez y te mataré, dijo Naruto, su voz resumando intenciones mortales, el pergamino prohibido todavía atado a su espalda. ¿Sabes el poder que guarda el pergamino que llevas en la espalda? Contiene los secretos de los Kages de la mayor nación shinobi de la historia, dijo Mizuki. De hecho, se rumorea que incluso el legendario Iraisin no Jutsu del Yondaime está contenido en ese pergamino. Naruto tembló ante el poder que el pergamino en su espalda podía otorgar a cualquiera con la capacidad de aprender sus secretos. ¿Podría él? ¿Podría Mizuki? Disipando el pensamiento de su mente, cruzó los dedos y dijo en voz baja: Takage Bunsin no Jutsu. Se oyeron cientos de estallidos distintivos en todo el bosque mientras un ejército aparentemente interminable de clones aparecía en él. Sin mediar palabra, los clones se abalanzaron sobre Mizuki y la atacaron con un taijutsu de academia descuidado. La superioridad numérica prevaleció, y Mizuki fue rápidamente superada y golpeada hasta quedar inconsciente cuando llegaron el Hokage y una legión de Anbu. En el caos que crearon los clones de Naruto, nadie notó que uno de los clones se escapaba del bosque hacia un lugar desconocido. Incluso si Iruka-sensei lo reconociera, Naruto sabía que no sería igual con los demás. Ni siquiera se le permitió convertirse en Chunin, y aunque lo lograra después de estos eventos, sabía que nadie querría aprender nada por culpa del Kyuubi, y ni hablar del pergamino prohibido que le engañaron para robar. Pero ahora tenía en sus manos uno de los pergaminos más poderosos de Konoha, uno del cual podía aprender por sí solo como lo hacía con el Takage Bunsin no Jutsu, y ahora sin que Konoha lo detuviera podía entrenar con el pergamino en su espalda y tal vez convertirse en un verdadero shinobi. Naruto podía sentir que su mente dolía un poco mientras los clones disipados enviaban los recuerdos de lo que sucedió con Mizuki e Iruka. Escena retrospectiva. Los clones de Naruto han derrotado a Mizuki. Iruka continuó incrédulo ante lo sucedido. Pero antes de que pudiera felicitar a Naruto, sus clones regresaron en su dirección y uno de ellos dijo: Estoy muy feliz de que me reconozcas, Iruka-sensei, pero ya no puedo quedarme aquí. Nadie querrá ser mi sensei o siquiera entrenarme. Ni siquiera me dejaste pasar los exámenes de graduación. Aún así te prometo que me convertiré en un verdadero shinobi, uno del que podrás estar orgulloso. Después de esa noche, Naruto supo que tenía la oportunidad de mejorar, de hacer que su antiguo sensei se sintiera orgulloso de él y poder dedicarle tiempo a reflexionar sobre lo sucedido esa noche. Naruto yo. Antes de que Iruka pudiera terminar su frase, uno de los clones de Naruto se detuvo mientras decía: Si tener al Kyuubi sellado en mí de alguna manera me hace menos un verdadero shinobi, entonces simplemente iré y aplastaré a todos los llamados verdaderos shinobi. Después de que el clon terminó la oración, todos los clones de Naruto se disiparon antes de que Iruka tuviera la oportunidad de decir una palabra. Fin del flashback. Esta línea de pensamiento trajo un nuevo dilema a la mente de Naruto. Si huía, Hokage Jiji seguramente enviaría a alguien tras él. Sabía que quienes huían de sus aldeas eran asesinados. Era una de las pocas cosas a las que había prestado atención en la academia. Evitar a cualquier perseguidor. Tendría que irse lejos, pero no tenía dinero. Le habían dado suficiente para comida y víveres, pero había gastado la mayor parte. Incluso si no lo hubiera hecho, Naruto estaba seguro de que necesitaría mucho más de lo que tenía en ese momento. A Naruto le tomó un tiempo lograr subir la estrecha espiral de escaleras que usaban los reparadores o la población no ninja de Konoha para subir a la cima del muro. Ya estaba nublado y la luna estaba completamente oculta tras las nubes grises. Naruto corrió por la muralla hacia las puertas principales. Al llegar, solo le faltaba saltar de la muralla a los árboles del exterior. Naruto se detuvo en las sombras. Se giró para mirar su aldea por última vez. Su vida allí no había sido feliz. Había llorado hasta quedarse dormido tantas veces que había perdido la cuenta. La nube se movió un poco y la luna brilló brevemente. La mirada de Naruto se dirigió al monumento del Hokage. 4 rostros lo miraban fijamente, con una mirada impasible. Naruto se sintió un poco culpable al observar los rostros de los grandes líderes de su aldea. Quizás fuera un efecto de la luz o los propios sentimientos de Naruto, pero sus rostros casi parecían tristes. Naruto no pudo evitar sentir que les había fallado. Nunca habían huido de sus batallas. 3 de ellos habían luchado hasta su último aliento y nunca se habían rendido. Las lágrimas amenazaban con asomarle a los ojos. Había deseado ser como ellos. Al principio, había buscado reconocimiento, pero más tarde, cuando Iruka-sensei lo obligó a leer sobre ellos y Okage Jiji le contó sus historias, quiso ser como ellos por diferentes razones. Ahora estaba huyendo, como un cobarde y un ladrón. Su control se rompió cuando empezó a sollozar. Lo siento, jadeó entre sollozos. No hubo respuesta. No soy como ustedes, Datebayo. No soy fuerte. Sorbió, con lágrimas en el rostro. Lo siento, Datebayo. Sus hombros se hundieron mientras se daba la vuelta para irse. No era lo suficientemente fuerte. Bueno, al menos no todavía. El Hokage y su equipo de Ambu acaban de llegar poco después de que los clones de Naruto se hubieran disipado. Iruka a toda prisa les contó lo sucedido y que Naruto planeaba abandonar la aldea. El Hokage inmediatamente le dijo a su equipo Ambu que fuera a traer a Naruto ileso y alertar a los otros shinobi mientras dos Ambu se quedaban para detener a Mizuki para obtener información y el Hokage ayudó a Iruka mientras continuaban su conversación. Le fallait, Iruka-kun, un chico de su edad, obligado a huir de mis aldeanos por temor a perder la vida. Lo he fallado. El Hokage habló con voz grave. Todos lo hemos hecho, Hokage-sama. Iruka lo interrumpió, él también al borde de las lágrimas. Pensé que con invitarlo a comer ramen de vez en cuando era suficiente. Debería haberle prestado más atención a su soledad. Sabía que los demás lo odiaban. Quizás si hubiera. No te cultes, Iruka-kun. No tuviste control alguno de la situación, pero yo, como Hokage, no tengo excusa. Podría haber desautorizado al consejo cuando quisiera, pero dejé que mi compasión por los aldeanos me impidiera ver las injusticias que sufría Naruto. Fui yo quien falló en protegerlo, dijo Sarutobi. El Hokage habría adoptado a Naruto, pero al haber adoptado a un niño rubio, habría sido muy fácil descubrir que era hijo de Minato. Las otras aldeas podrían haber intentado asesinarlo y no podría criarlo adecuadamente, ya que la atención hacia el niño despreciado por toda la aldea habría suscitado dudas en el consejo de la aldea. Se suponía que debía tratar a todos con justicia, y Naruto no era la excepción. No tuvo más remedio que ayudar a Naruto mientras permanecía en la sombra porque los ancianos y Danzo observaban cada movimiento que hacía. Como Hokage, no tenía excusa. Si hubiera querido podría haberlo detenido, pero dejó que su compasión por los aldeanos lo cegara ante las injusticias que enfrentaba Naruto. Naruto siempre supo esconder su tristeza detrás de una sonrisa. El propio Hiruzen era alguien que tenía un lado oscuro en él, un hombre en crisis filosófica. Osciló entre la agresión y la compasión, sin duda dos filosofías opuestas que aprendió de Tobirama y Hachirama. Hiruzen lucha con los aspectos de ser Hokage, el lado luminoso y el lado oscuro. Sarutobi había intentado encontrar un reemplazo. Les había enviado mensajes a sus dos estudiantes, pero ambos lo habían rechazado. Sabía que Danzo habría aprovechado la oportunidad, pero Sarutobi también sabía que él no era una opción. Con Danzo como Hokage, ¿quién sabe qué le habría pasado a Naruto? En realidad ya era bastante malo. Solo unas pocas personas conocen el estado de Naruto como Jinchuriki, pero Danzo destruyó la infancia de Naruto cuando puso a sus hombres a comenzar a difundir chismes por la aldea sobre el Kyuubi sellado dentro del cuerpo de Naruto. Pero ahora no iba a cometer el mismo error otra vez. Tras el regreso de Naruto, iba a compensarlo y corregir al menos uno de sus errores del pasado. Después de todo, él era solo un ser humano y todos cometemos errores. Iba a contarle al niño sobre sus padres y arreglar todo lo que pudiera en ese momento. Aún así, fue más difícil de lo que dijo. Al día siguiente, Naruto estaba exhausto y dolorido. Huir le había parecido una buena idea. Ahora, estaba perdido y hambriento por no haber comido nada esa noche, pues había usado ese tiempo para aprender el jutsu de clonación. Se había mojado con el aguacero la noche que se fue y estaba casi seguro de que estaba enfermo. Normalmente, unas pocas horas de descanso bastaban para que se recuperara. Quizás porque tenía al Kyuubi sellado en él, pensó. Naruto estornudó. No había tenido tiempo de descansar, pues había estado corriendo sin parar para escapar del alcance del shinobi rastreador de élite. Más rápido. Estaba convencido de que le iba a estallar la cabeza. Apenas podía mantener los ojos abiertos. El sol en la espalda le resecó la garganta. Por suerte, había encontrado una cueva que no era muy grande, pero le daba para dormir y quizás incluso entrenar más tarde. Tropezó y cayó. No tuvo fuerzas para levantarse. Por primera vez desde su huida de Konoha, Naruto durmió. Iruka fue llevado a un hospital para curarse después de los eventos de la noche anterior. Era casi de mañana. El Hokage no durmió en toda la noche esperando que su shinobi trajera a Naruto de regreso. Y ahora estaban aquí, pero ninguno de los equipos había logrado encontrar al niño. ¿Qué hacemos? ¿A dónde diablos se fue? ¿A quién le importa eso? ¿Qué idiota estaba de guardia? Todos, cálmense, gritó el Hokage. El aumento de intención asesina del Hokage ciertamente hizo su trabajo al callar a todos. Ahora que por fin podemos oírnos hablar, dijo el Hokage con severidad, reprendiéndolos a todos con la mirada. Comencemos con lo que sabemos. El mocoso, quiero decir, el chico se ha escapado de alguna manera, dijo uno de los shinobi. Entonces, la pregunta que debemos hacernos aquí no es cómo salió, sino a dónde fue, dijo otro. El anciano Hokage cerró los ojos y exhaló lentamente. ¿Cómo había logrado el estudiante de la Academia evitar ser detectado durante tanto tiempo? No tenía sentido. ¿Dónde has estado buscando?, preguntó el Hokage. El área a 32 kilómetros de Konoha. Ni siquiera era un Chunin, así que no creo que pudiera haber ido más lejos. Eso lo explicaría entonces. El chico tiene una resistencia sobrenatural y pronto, con más días, podría estar a un país de distancia. Quiero que amplíes tu búsqueda por todo el país del fuego, sin dejar piedras sin remover. Lo quiero de vuelta vivo e ileso. Si regresa muerto, lo castigaré personalmente. El Hokage destilaba instinto asesino en sus palabras, haciendo saber a todos allí que era muy serio en sus órdenes. Ai Hokage-sama, dijeron todos los shinobi de allí antes de usar el Sunshin no Jutsu y desaparecer. ¿Qué has hecho, Naruto-kun?, pensó el Hokage. Naruto acaba de despertar, y ya podía sentir el frío en la cueva. Necesitaba ir a comer algo rápido porque le dolía el estómago y los sonidos que hacía podrían haber dado la impresión de que había un oso en la cueva en ese momento. Takage Bunshin no Jutsu, susurró Naruto haciendo 10 clones. Naruto se sorprendió porque ni siquiera tuvo que decir algo, ya que sus clones ya sabían lo que tenían que hacer. Los clones ya salieron de la cueva en busca de comida. Tal vez no necesite decirles qué hacer si pienso en lo que quiero que hagan antes de hacerlos, pensó Naruto. Por mucho que quisiera pensar más en esto, necesitaba comer y tal vez después de eso tendría más energía para volver a leer ese jutsu del pergamino y aprender más. Más tarde, algunos de los clones regresaron con algunas manzanas que habían encontrado para Naruto. Normalmente Naruto no comería nada más que ramen, ya que esa era la comida que comía desde que era más joven. Todavía podía recordar cuando conoció a Teuchi y a Yame y cuando comió su primer plato de ramen. Desde entonces, Naruto empezó a comer allí. Era como un segundo hogar para él. Teuchi siempre le daba un tazón de ramen todos los días para asegurarse de que no se acostara con hambre. Era el único lugar donde Naruto podía comprar comida con el dinero que le daba Hokage Jiji. Pero ahora, cuando tienes mucha hambre, no importa que comas ni cómo esté. Si al menos comes algo, necesitaba sobrevivir con lo que tenía en ese momento. Después de terminar con todas las manzanas que sus clones le habían traído, Naruto decidió caer esta vez y mirar ese pergamino nuevamente y ver qué más podía aprender sobre su jutsu. Naruto abrió el pergamino prohibido. El primer jutsu con el que se topó fue el Takage Bunshin no Jutsu. A diferencia de la última vez, Naruto notó que olvidó leer la descripción del jutsu con las prisas por aprenderlo. Tras leerla, no pudo evitar sonreír. Decía que los clones podían usar jutsus y enviar su memoria al usuario al disiparlos. Pero se estremeció al leer que requería grandes reservas de chakra y que podría matar al usuario si creaba más de las que sus reservas podían manejar. Además, disipar una gran cantidad de clones simultáneamente podría causar daño cerebral al usuario debido a la pérdida de memoria. Juró que no crearía más de 30 clones a la vez a menos que fuera necesario o sintiera que podía manejar más. Aunque Naruto pudo haber sido un idiota, no era estúpido. Naruto había obtenido un recuerdo de uno de sus clones donde podía encontrar un lago con peces en él. Tal vez sería mejor por ahora si consigo más comida para tener al menos para hoy y mañana. Entonces podría comenzar a entrenar con el pergamino, pensó Naruto. Pasó algún tiempo del día mientras Naruto con la ayuda de sus clones logró atrapar suficientes peces para 1 o 2 días más. Fue agradable estar libre de todo, pero ahora estaba incluso más solo que antes. Naruto intentó llenar la soledad en la que se encontraba en ese momento hablando con sus clones. Fue agradable conocerse mejor, pero después de disipar los clones pudo volver a caer como si hubiera hablado solo todo el tiempo. Aún así, mientras escondía peces y se mojaba en el proceso. Obtuvo algunos recuerdos de cómo comía pescado y hongos antes de conocer a Teuchi y a Yame. Pero ahora era el momento de intentar aprender otro jutsu y tenía suficiente espacio en la cueva para eso. Naruto volvió a abrir el pergamino y justo debajo del Tafkage Bunsin no Jutsu encontró dos jutsu más relacionados con él. Eran Shuriken Kage Bunsin y Bunsin Daibakwa. Se dijo que el Shuriken Kage Bunsin no Jutsu estaba prohibido solo porque requiere que el usuario conozca el Kage Bunsin no Jutsu de antemano. Naruto especuló que el Kage Bunsin no Jutsu era como el Tafkage Bunsin no Jutsu pero probablemente producía menos clones. Él también esta mañana no tenía mucho chakra y probablemente esa es la razón por la que solo pudo hacer 10 clones en ese entonces. Tal vez después de aprender a controlar mejor su chakra podría controlar exactamente la cantidad de clones que quería hacer. El siguiente jutsu que vio fue Bunsin Daibakwa. Estaba prohibido porque requería altas reservas de chakra, al menos nivel Jonin para usarlo, y requería que el usuario dominara el Kage Bunsin no Jutsu de antemano. Sin embargo, el uso de ambos jutsus fue asombroso. Shuriken Kage Bunsin no Jutsu permite crear copias de armas lanzadas al aire, creando una lluvia de armas que caen sobre el enemigo. El área de efecto depende de la habilidad del usuario, mientras que Bunsin Daibakwa permite crear clones de terroristas suicidas que pueden ser detonados por el usuario o clonarse a sí mismos. Se consideró casi indetectable para personas sin sensores y usuarios que no utilizaban Dujutsu. Naruto sonrió después de leer esto, ya que sabía que no eran peligrosos para él, ya que había dominado el Tafkage Bunsin no Jutsu, que estaba más allá del Kage Bunsin no Jutsu, que requería al menos bajas reservas de chakra Jonin para crear solo un clon, mientras que él había creado más con mucho chakra de sobra. Esto significaba que tenía mayores reservas de chakra que la mayoría de los Jonin. Así que Naruto comenzó a aprender Shuriken Kage Bunsin no Jutsu con unas piedras que encontró en el bosque, ya que no tenía kunai ni shuriken para probar. Noche. Naruto había empezado a tener un buen trabajo hoy. Lanzó algunas piedritas y luego usó Shuriken Kage Bunsin no Jutsu. De 5 piedritas, se convirtieron en 25. Todavía luchaba con el control del chakra, ya que aún no sabía qué ejercicio podía hacer para controlar el chakra que estaba poniendo en el jutsu que estaba usando. Quizás pueda encontrar a alguien a quien preguntarle sobre esto o encontrar una ciudad y algunos libros con instrucciones, pensó Naruto, deseando estar más concentrado en clase mientras Iruka-sensei explicaba esto. Ahora bien, incluso si lo hiciera, Naruto era más del tipo que aprende con la práctica y el trabajo duro que con las palabras. También empezó a preguntarse más cosas a medida que se acercaba la noche. Al igual que cuando era más joven, Naruto había hecho una fogata y preparó algo de pescado para comer. La comida era aún más deliciosa cuando sabías que habías trabajado para conseguirla. Mientras comía, Naruto comenzó a cuestionarse a sí mismo. ¿A alguien le importaría? ¿Alguien notaría mi desaparición? ¿Alguien me perseguiría? ¿Alguien me querría? Si supieran lo que llevo dentro, ¿alguien de aquí afuera me vería? Por la persona que realmente soy. Estas preguntas lo mantendrán despierto. Pero la pregunta más importante era, ¿qué debía hacer ahora? Aparte de aprender del pergamino, no sabía qué más hacer. Necesitaba algo más que aprender a motivarse para ser más fuerte y hacer algo en esta vida en lugar de ser simplemente una carga. El dolor de no saber quién es, de ser alguien sin identidad. ¿Quién es realmente? Naruto se cuestionaba su propia identidad y quién debería haber sido o ser. De regreso en Konoha, hizo todo lo que pudo para llamar la atención. Estaba interesado en Sakura también porque es hermosa e inteligente y muy popular. Estaba interesado en ella solo porque quería obtener atención y reconocimiento. Se preguntó Naruto, siempre hice lo que fuera necesario para obtener atención. Soy una mala persona por hacer esto. Había 2 o 3 personas que eran amables con él y algunas que nunca lo intimidaban, pero no sabía con seguridad si podía o no haber sido amigo de ellas. Me habría dado cuenta de estas cosas si me hubiera quedado en Konoha o hubiera actuado como un idiota para obtener reconocimiento como lo hice antes, pensó Naruto. No lo sabía y tampoco estaba seguro de lo que realmente debía hacer. No, necesitaba tener fe en sí mismo y forjar su propia identidad. Pero por el momento necesitaba fortalecerse. Nada más importaba, pues ni siquiera sabía dónde estaba y no deseaba regresar a la aldea que el demonio en su interior se había esforzado por destruir. Una aldea donde era incluso más infeliz que viviendo en una cueva. Sin mencionar que dudaba que lo recibieran con los brazos abiertos, estaba bastante sorprendido de que Hunter Nin no lo hubiera detenido aún. Konoha. Sarutobi llegó a su oficina en la Torre Hokage. Los ambu que custodiaban la puerta lo saludaron. Él les hizo un gesto con la cabeza al entrar. Fue a sentarse tras su escritorio y suspiró. Detestaba días como estos, cuando sentía la edad. Puede que fuera el Hokage, pero también era un anciano cansado. Desde que regresó al cargo tras la muerte de Minato hacía una década, había empezado a cansarse con facilidad. Un año después, tras la estabilización de la aldea, Sarutobi intentó encontrar un reemplazo. Envió mensajes a sus dos estudiantes, pero ambos lo rechazaron. Estaba completamente solo. Sabía que Danzo habría aprovechado la oportunidad, pero Sarutobi también sabía que no era una opción. Nara Shikaku había dicho que no era lo suficientemente poderoso y que no proyectaba la imagen de un líder temible, y rechazó al Hokage cortésmente. Incluso Izuren tuvo que estar de acuerdo. Aunque Minato hubiera sido tranquilo, había sido temido como ningún otro en el mundo ninja, manteniendo a raya a futuros enemigos. Su única opción era permanecer en el cargo el mayor tiempo posible, hasta que surgiera un sucesor digno. Ataque Kakashi era uno de los que había que tener en cuenta, pero aún no estaba listo. Uchiha Itachi también había llamado la atención de Izuren. La voluntad de fuego ardía con fuerza en el joven, pero el sacrificio que Itachi había hecho lo había eliminado de la ecuación. Antes de partir, el joven Uchiha había prometido proteger la aldea del exterior. Hijiren suspiró. De no ser por ese incidente, Itachi habría estado listo para asumir el cargo de Hokage como sexto, para cuando uno de sus sustitutos renunciara, preferiblemente Jiraiya. Hacía tiempo que había renunciado a Tsunade. Además, que Itachi estuviera preparado para el cargo de Hokage habría tranquilizado a los Uchiha. Solo si eso hubiera podido ocurrir, podría tener más tiempo para los problemas que tenía. Incluso podría haber evitado que ocurrieran los acontecimientos de la noche anterior. Podría haber cuidado mejor de Naruto. Dejando que sus pensamientos vagaran hacia el contenedor del demonio rubio, no pudo evitar erizarse de miedo al ver el peligro que corría al llevar y aprender las técnicas del pergamino. Si dejaba que cayera en manos de alguien que no fuera él, tendría que matarlo él mismo. Y el viejo Hokage no sabía si podría hacerlo. Iruka quería ir tras Naruto, pero aún no estaba completamente curado y le dijo que al menos debería esperar hasta después de los exámenes de graduación. Iruka no quería fallarle al niño rubio con el que se había encariñado, pero al ver que éste no había logrado realizar ni el jutsu más simple, se vio obligado a decidir que Naruto no estaba del todo listo para ser ninja. Francamente, Iruka empezaba a dudar de que Naruto pudiera graduarse alguna vez, hasta que se le demostró lo contrario la última noche. Naruto fue muy creativo, incluso ahora el Hokage recordó cómo el chico lo derrotó y le robó el pergamino. Escena retrospectiva. ¿Qué haces en mi casa a esta hora?, preguntó el Hokage. Naruto empezó a sudar al ser atrapado. Decidió usar su propio y asombroso jutsu para escapar. Oiroke no jutsu, gritó Naruto mientras se transformaba en una mujer tetona y desnuda con humo cubriendo sus partes privadas. El Hokage, sorprendido por este movimiento repentino y siendo un pervertido, estalló en una hemorragia nasal y fue impulsado hacia el fondo de la habitación, quedando inconsciente. Naruto no podía creer que hubiera derrotado al Hokage. Ahora, debía completar su misión y comenzar la búsqueda del pergamino prohibido. Lo encontró y escapó al bosque que rodeaba la aldea. Fin del flashback. El Hokage esperaba no tener que enfrentarse nunca más a ese jutsu. Al día siguiente, Naruto acababa de terminar de comer la comida que le quedaba del último día y estaba pensando en enviar nuevamente a sus clones por el lugar en busca de comida o tal vez incluso alguna aldea donde pudiera comprar algo de comida o mover su escondite. Pero no duró mucho, ya que dos ninjas cazadores encontraron su rastro. Él está aquí. Lo encontramos. Naruto regresó y vio dos figuras en la entrada de la cueva. No le servía de nada no tener a dónde correr. Parece que este será su primer reto si quería continuar su viaje, descubrir quién era. Quería descubrir quién era y qué se suponía que debía hacer con su vida. No podía, no quería regresar al pueblo donde él era el idiota que no sabía nada y estaba encerrado por todos los demás. No iba a dejar que nadie lo detuviera. No iba a aceptar nada de esto. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, gritó Naruto, usando pequeñas piedras como shurikens. Los dos ninjas cazadores apenas pudieron evitar las piedras mientras saltaban para alejarse del ataque. Quedar atrapado en la estrecha cueva con la rubia destructiva no era un lugar en el que nadie deseara estar. especialmente cuando no pudieron contraatacar. Uzumaki-san, el Hokage nos ha ordenado que te llevemos de regreso a Konoha. Por favor, no hagas esto difícil, dijo uno de los shinobi enmascarados. Naruto dejó escapar un gruñido que no debería haber podido salir de su caja de voz humana. ¿Entonces por qué?, preguntó, su voz aumentando de volumen. Envió a Hunter Nin, gritó Naruto. Las marcas de bigotes en sus mejillas se hicieron más pronunciadas mientras hacía el Tafkage Bunsin no Jutsu y los dos Hunter Nin estaban siendo tomados por sorpresa por el ejército de clones que el chico tenía y puede hacer. Sin siquiera decir una palabra, los clones descendieron sobre ellos y atacaron con una forma descuidada de taijutsu de academia. Los dos shinobi fueron rápidamente abrumados y golpeados hasta quedar inconscientes. Observando con no poca satisfacción cómo los dos shinobi eran golpeados, Naruto se acercó a los ninjas caídos y los despojó de todo lo que consideró útil. Para su suerte encontró una mochila y un poco de comida junto con algo de dinero. Ahora necesitaba moverse antes de que más shinobi pudieran encontrarlo. Parece que ya es hora de abandonar el país del fuego. Algunos días después, Naruto había viajado mucho tiempo para asegurarse de no encontrarse con más shinobi de su aldea. Me pregunto qué tan lejos está un pueblo, preguntó Naruto al aire, sin esperar una respuesta. A unas 4 horas al oeste. Naruto se giró al escuchar la voz. Sus manos ya estaban realizando los sellos manuales para Kage Bunsin no Jutsu. No soy una amenaza, dijo el hombre, retrocediendo lentamente. Observando los rasgos modestos del hombre, Naruto respondió rápidamente. Entonces, ¿cómo diablos te acercaste sigilosamente a mí? No me escabullí, caminé hacia ti y no te diste cuenta, dijo el hombre. Ah, bueno, eso es bastante vergonzoso, respondió Naruto frotándose la parte posterior de la cabeza. Era shinobi, supongo. Más o menos. Sin decir otra palabra, el hombre le hizo un gesto a Naruto para que lo siguiera. Después de un momento Naruto lo siguió, alcanzándolo rápidamente. El resto del viaje transcurrió en relativo silencio hasta que Naruto vio un pueblo más adelante. Ahí está, gritó Naruto, saltando y señalándolo. El hombre pareció un poco desconcertado por su demostración de excitación y simplemente gruñó. Me voy ya, tengo cosas que hacer y seguro que tú también. Lo haré. Gracias por la guía, dijo Naruto con genuino aprecio en su voz. Nunca supe tu nombre. El hombre repitió haberle dicho su nombre, sin preguntarle el nombre de Naruto a cambio. Naruto no podía creer lo amable y respetuosa que era la gente de este pueblo. La gente era amable y le sonreía. Le preguntó a una mujer si había un buffet de ramen y la forma en que ella le respondió con un sí fue muy amable, e incluso lo guió hasta allí. Esto le dio esperanza en su corazón de que las personas podían cambiar y ser mejores, ser amables. Comenzó a apreciar y querer aún más a las personas con buen corazón. No necesitaba gastar su tiempo como lo hizo en Konoha para llamar la atención de personas malas e incluso si era una especie de shinobi. Esto no le impediría ser amable con las personas en las que veía la esperanza de que pudieran ser mejores. Naruto aún recordaba su doloroso pasado de niño y empezó a contener las lágrimas, pero al final se rindió. Le gustaban esos lugares, aunque no pudiera quedarse mucho tiempo. Necesitaba entrenar y conseguir recursos y encontrar una forma de llevar la mochila y el pergamino gigante sin llamar mucho la atención. Notas del autor, advertencia, posibles spoilers. Este es el remake del primer capítulo. Espero que lo hayan disfrutado. Cuénteme en la reseña qué puedo mejorar. Naruto necesitará saber cómo abusar de Kage Bunsin en el entrenamiento si queremos que sobreviva, pero no quiero que tenga esto ya desde el primer capítulo y él es alguien que aprecia el trabajo duro. Naruto es más inteligente aquí de lo que se muestra en el canon, porque en el manga / anime creo que parte de su problema es el daño cerebral debido a que Sakura lo golpea en la cabeza tan seguido. Aún no he leído el manga completo, pero sé algunas cosas importantes de algunos eventos. Y en este momento también estoy leyendo novelas de Naruto. Itachi Shinden, libro de la luz del día. Itachi Shinden, libro de la medianoche. Sasuke Shinden, libro del amanecer. Es posible que haya alguna información de estas novelas que utilice en la historia, al menos en forma de flashbacks. En esta historia tendré algunos eventos del último, Naruto Twist of Fat Uzumaki Descendants, que hice pero pueden jugar de una manera o tiempo diferente. Sé que Kakashi y Sarutobi no hicieron el mejor trabajo ayudando a Naruto y a muchas personas les gusta criticarlos, pero imaginen lo malo que hubiera sido si Kakashi hubiera terminado volviéndose un ninja rebelde después de su pasado, ¿O qué podría haber sucedido si Danzo se hubiera convertido en Hokage en lugar de que Hiruzen regresara para ser Hokage? Aquí les explico cómo analizo algunos aspectos de Naruto para quienes quieran saber más. Tómenlos como nuevos conocimientos o simplemente como mi opinión personal. No importa mucho, pero no les den mucha importancia en la reseña. El amor de Naruto por Sakura. Les diré cómo lo veo. Mi punto de vista. En el canon, el amor y el deseo de Naruto por Sakura al principio de la serie se debían a que ella era una ninja común y corriente. Naruto quería que toda la aldea de la hoja lo admirara y lo eligiera Hokage algún día por una razón, para que la aldea de la hoja lo aceptara y lo respetara. Todos deben aceptar al Hokage, y la mayoría lo respetará. Por lo tanto, una meta barra diagonalito en su camino hacia convertirse en Hokage es lograr que el ninja más promedio de su grado crea en él. Si logra convencer al ninja promedio de la hoja de que lo acepte, habrá logrado su anhelado objetivo de ser aceptado por la aldea de la hoja, en lugar de ser excluido. Este es el motivo original de su enamoramiento por Sakura y su deseo de que ella lo ame. No diría que nunca la amó de verdad, pero creo que nunca entendió realmente lo que significaba amar a alguien, dada su infancia. Pero como señala Sakura en Naruto, The Last, no es que sus sentimientos no fueran genuinos. Sus sentimientos surgieron de una rivalidad con Sasuke. Es como cuando crees amar a alguien, pero después de estar un tiempo con esa persona te das cuenta de que en realidad no la amabas tanto como creías. No creo que Naruto no fuera serio, pero sus verdaderos sentimientos no eran conseguir que Sakura lo quisiera y la amara de verdad. Más bien, era solo intentando demostrar que era mejor que Sasuke. Estuvo con ella en el equipo mucho tiempo, al menos, creo que la quería como a una hermana. Para el equipo 7, Naruto los veía más como una familia, y Sakura era la única y primera chica con la que pasaba tiempo, como si pensáramos, Ayame solo aparece en el anime. Podría mencionar más cosas, pero creo que ya entiende mi punto. ¿Cómo Sarutobi cuidó de Naruto? El hecho de que los Biju fueran armas de guerra era un secreto celosamente guardado en todas las aldeas shinobi. Por eso, muchos aldeanos se referían al Kyuubi como el zorro demonio. Como Hokage, no podía ayudar a Naruto oficialmente, ya que desestabilizaría el gobierno de Konoha. Algo similar ocurrió en Suna, donde la conexión del gobierno con los Ichibi causó graves conflictos internos. Todo lo que Hiruzen hacía por Naruto debía ser completamente clandestino. El alcance de las acciones oficiales de Hiruzen se limitó a decretar que los aldeanos no debían hablar del tema para evitar cualquier acto de violencia contra Naruto. Más allá de eso, el Hokage no podía, bajo ninguna circunstancia, ayudar a un Jinchuriki. Esto explica su hipocresía al hacerle su promesa a Kusina. No sabía que tendría que volver a ser Hokage tras la muerte de Minato. Básicamente, imagina que eres Hiruzen Sarutobi. No puedes actuar bajo la égida del Hokage para apoyar a Naruto. No hay nadie en la aldea, aparte de Kakashi, dispuesto a cuidar de Naruto. Tú y Kakashi están demasiado ocupados como oficiales de alto rango como para cuidarlos solos. ¿Qué haces? ¿Te aseguras de que tenga un lugar donde vivir, de que esté inscrito en la academia, de evitar la violencia grave contra él y de vigilarlo en secreto siempre que puedes? Bueno, todo esto es lo que hacía Hiruzen. Dadas las limitaciones, esto es todo lo que se puede esperar de un Hokage, los caminos que tomaron. Capítulo 2. Enfrenta al mundo solo. Jaja. Gracias por la comida, viejo. Naruto saludó burlonamente al hombre del bar de ramen y se echó la pesada mochila al hombro. Necesitaba volver a su entrenamiento ahora. Por lo general, la gente comienza caminando sobre árboles antes de pasar a caminar sobre el agua. Mucho más difícil, cuando trabajan en el control de los chakras. Desafortunadamente para Uzumaki Naruto, él no sabía esto. Así que, cuando vio a un ninja caminando sobre el agua un día, se dedicó a aprender a hacerlo. Incluso cuando estaba triste, Naruto sabía cómo poner una sonrisa en su rostro y fingir que estaba feliz, por lo que interpretar al estudiante de la academia asombrado y preguntarle a dicho ninja cómo lo hizo no fue tan difícil. Basta decir que la breve explicación no le ayudó mucho, pero sentí que empezaba a comprenderlo. Y, poco a poco, su control del chakra aumentaba. Naruto se sintió un poco más seguro de sus habilidades que antes. Aunque solo un poco, necesitaba un sensei, pero sabía que eso no iba a suceder. Konoha. Sarutobi dejó escapar un pequeño suspiro. El rubio había demostrado que podía cuidarse solo, a juzgar por el cazador ninja que había regresado a Konoha tras encontrarlo. El hecho de haber aprendido otro jutsu de pergamino con tanta facilidad sobresaltó al profesor, pero no creía que su desobediente alumno lo tuviera tan fácil con el otro jutsu del pergamino. A pesar de sus dudas, aprendido había a no subestimar al joven, pronto futuro ninja perdido de Konoha. Después del día de la graduación, Iruka fue tras Naruto. Tal vez tuvo una mejor oportunidad de encontrar al chico. Ya envió un mensaje a Jiraiya esperando que alguno de ellos encuentre al chico. Los andaime dudaban que lo encontraran hasta que él quisiera. No podía darse el lujo de ponerlo en el libro de bingo internacional, y él no tenía la mano de obra necesaria para lanzar una búsqueda a gran escala sobre las naciones elementales. Al menos eso se dijo a sí mismo. Si la decisión la tomara otra persona, la fuerza de trabajo podría estar disponible de repente. Por otro lado, si fuera otra persona, quizás no le dirían al consejo que tenían 5 parejas de ninjas cazadores buscándolo constantemente, mientras que en realidad solo estaban Iruka y Jiraiya. Se condenaría a sí mismo a las profundidades del infierno antes de permitir que un consejo de tontos amargados le hiciera romper su promesa al cuarto. No podía culpar a Naruto por su decisión y estaba contento de tener el pergamino. El mundo era un lugar difícil para un estudiante de academia y de esta manera podía aprender las técnicas de su padre en el peor de los casos. Se condenaría a sí mismo a las profundidades del infierno antes de permitir que mataran al único hijo del héroe de la aldea porque un consejo de necios amargados no pudo ver más allá del zorro demonio. Le rompía el corazón hacer algo que no fuera lo mejor para su aldea, pero tras enterarse de los rasgos salvajes de Naruto por el único cazador ninja que lo había visto, temió que el sello se estuviera desvaneciendo. No quería que un Jinchuriki furioso destrozara a sus valiosos escuadrones de asesinos. No, prefería tener a un Jinchuriki furioso lo más lejos posible. Incluso si fuera Naruto. Hasta que Jiraiya o Iruka puedan hablar con él y asegurarle que nadie le hará daño. Por el momento, el legado de Yondaime podía esperar. Tenía asuntos más urgentes que atender en ese momento. Hinata Yuga había admirado durante mucho tiempo a Uzumaki Naruto. Su determinación y actitud alegre siempre habían sido algo que ella consideraba un ejemplo, como el tipo de persona que quería ser. Todavía le sorprende cómo ha estado haciendo muchas bromas en la aldea, y nadie más parece notarlo hasta que está terminando o ha terminado, a pesar de que viste de color naranja brillante. De hecho, pintó el monumento Hokage a plena luz del día con colores brillantes mientras vestía su atuendo naranja brillante, y nadie más lo notó hasta que estaba terminando. Iruka Sensei lo trajo de regreso a clase después de que se dirigió a un grupo de shinobi en una búsqueda inútil por el pueblo, lo que debería hacer que la gente sospeche porque es el último de la clase. Ella personalmente pensó que lo habían saboteado hasta el punto de dejar de intentarlo en clase cuando llegaron a la clase de Iruka Sensei. Después de ser llevado, Naruto usó su nuevo jutsu, el Oiroke no Jutsu. Hinata pensó que podría ser la única persona en la clase que se da cuenta del poder de la técnica, que es bastante peligrosa ya que la mayoría de los ninjas adultos masculinos parecen ser pervertidos. Pero hacía unos días, Naruto había vuelto a reprobar el examen. ¿Y ahora qué iba a hacer? Hinata no entendía por qué la prueba siempre era el Bonshin no Jutsu. Ella sabe que el compañero de equipo de Neji, Lee, ni siquiera puede usar ninjutsu y genjutsu. Aún así logró pasar. Ella quería ir a consolar a Naruto, pero antes de que pudiera tener el coraje de acercarse a él, Mizuki-sensei se acercó para hablar con él. Entonces Naruto pareció entusiasmado por lo que Mizuki-sensei le dijo. ¿Podría ser otra oportunidad para pasar? Quizás lo era, pero desde entonces no lo había visto en clase, y no parecía que fuera a aparecer. No pudo convertirse en Hokage sin ser primero un ninja. Entrenó muy duro, pero nunca fue suficiente. Estos eran pensamientos que corrían por su mente como arena de una mano. Tal vez después de que ella y su equipo se reúnan con su sensei, podría ir a buscar a Naruto. Bueno, preséntense, dijo Kakashi después de que el equipo 7 se instalara en la azotea de la academia. ¿Qué quieres que digamos, sensei?, preguntó la fan de cabello rosa. Kakashi y Sasuke la miraron con caras de aburrimiento. Sai tenía esa sonrisa falsa y espeluznante que le quedaba totalmente rara. Kakashi se encogió de hombros, reclinándose en la barandilla. No mucho. Tu nombre, gustos, aversiones, aficiones, sueños para el futuro, ese tipo de cosas. Ya que preguntaste, preséntate primero. ¿Podrías darnos un ejemplo, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi levantó la vista pensativo. No veo por qué no. Soy Ataque Kakashi. Mis gustos y disgustos no son asunto tuyo. Sueños. Tengo muchas aficiones. Todos sudaron una gota ante la presentación de Kakashi. Todos tenían los mismos pensamientos pasando por sus cabezas. Lo único que supimos fue su nombre. Kakashi miró a Sakura. Ya puedes irte, meñique. Ah, mi llamo Haruno Sakura. Me gustan. Se giró hacia Sasuke y se sonrojó levemente. Bueno, mis sueños para el futuro. Se giró y miró al pensativo Uchiha de nuevo, y su rubor se intensificó. También emitió un leve chillido, haciendo que quienes tuvieran oídos sensibles se estremecieran. Aficiones. Sakura se giró hacia Sasuke una vez más y su rubor se intensificó. Vaya, las chicas de su edad están más interesadas en los chicos que en el entrenamiento ninja, pensó Kakashi. Sasuke no escuchaba. Miraba al cielo, fantaseando sobre cómo matar a su hermano. Tenía pensamientos bastante oscuros y horripilantes para un niño de 12 años. Kakashi miraba a Sakura con una mirada aburrida. Sai simplemente sonrió. Como siempre. Bien, ahora tú. En el medio. Chico pálido, dijo Kakashi. El chico pálido, conocido como Sai, miró a Kakashi con una sonrisa misteriosa. Hola, me llamo Sai. No tengo gustos ni disgustos particulares. Lo mismo ocurre con los sueños. Sin embargo, dibujo como pasatiempo. Simple, corto, directo. La mirada de Kakashi se detuvo en Sai por unos segundos más antes de pasar al último de su equipo. Está bien, ahora es tu turno, dijo Kakashi, señalando a Sasuke. Mi llamo Sasuke Uchiha. Odio muchas cosas, pero no le veo importancia, ya que casi no hay nada que me guste. Tampoco tengo aficiones. No tengo ningún sueño, porque lo haré realidad. Voy a restaurar mi clan y destruir a cierta persona, declaró Sasuke. Como pensaba, pensó Kakashi. Muy bien, mañana comenzaremos nuestro primer ejercicio como equipo en el campo de entrenamiento 7, dijo Kakashi. Los días fueron buenos para Naruto. Aprendió a caminar sobre el agua, lo cual le ayudó mucho, y abandonó el pueblo para buscar otra cueva donde esconderse y aprender más jutsus del pergamino, donde nadie pudiera verlo entrenar. Pero ahora había otro problema. Volvió a tener hambre y no tuvo tanta suerte en encontrar ríos con peces que pescar ni manzanas. Y no sabía qué hacer. Y su dinero se había acabado. No lo sabía cómo terminaron tan rápido, pero una parte de él se maldecía por haber usado todo el dinero para comprar solo ramen. Los pensamientos de Naruto fueron interrumpidos cuando notó a un viajero. Era un hombre de cabello gris. Tenía una mochila. Muchos escenarios pasaron por la mente de Naruto. Quería ir a preguntarle si podía darle algo de comer, pero Naruto no sabía si era porque tenía mucha hambre o porque sabía que lo rechazarían. El hombre no se mostró amistoso. Tenía miedo de hacer esto y de lo que tenía que hacer para conseguir la comida. Pero la necesidad de alimento ya lo estaba corrompiendo. Naruto se acercó al hombre y sacó de su bolsillo un kunai que tenía de la mochila del ninja cazador. Apuntó al hombre y dijo, necesito comida y dinero. Naruto forzó las palabras, arrepintiéndose al instante. No sonó tan exigente como quería. Sonaba muy vacilante. ¿Fue la falta de confianza en sí mismo lo que lo estaba afectando mentalmente? ¿O simplemente no le gustaba la idea de amenazar a un hombre indefenso? El hombre resultó no estar tan indefenso como Naruto pensaba. Sacó un cuchillo y lo apuntó a Naruto. ¿Crees que un mocoso como tú puede amenazarme tan fácilmente?, preguntó el hombre. Naruto miró el kunai, aflojando ligeramente su control. Nunca en su vida había agredido a nadie, pero tuvo que hacerlo. Tenía que sobrevivir, conquistado por su moral. Naruto soltó el kunai, cruzó los dedos y dijo Takage Bunsin no Jutsu. Gritó antes de que 6 clones sólidos emergieran, rodeando al hombre. En estado de shock al verse rodeado, el hombre dejó caer su cuchillo. Definitivamente no era un shinobi. Naruto observa con no poca satisfacción cómo sus clones golpean al hombre hasta dejarlo inconsciente. Encogiéndose de hombros, se acercó al hombre caído y lo despojó de todo lo que consideró útil. Sin embargo, Naruto le dejó algo de comida y dinero porque no quería que el hombre muriera de hambre como el después de despertar. Necesitaba correr y sobrevivir y esperar que el hombre estuviera bien después de esto. ¿En qué se había convertido? ¿Desde cuándo robaba? Estas eran preguntas que se formaban en su mente. Después de terminar con su reunión de equipo, Hinata fue a buscar a Naruto pero no pudo encontrarlo. Quizás podría preguntarle a Iruka-sensei si sabía dónde estaba. Otra pregunta se formó en su mente. ¿Por qué? No había intentado Iruka-sensei ayudar a Naruto con su jutsu de clonación. En cambio, le falló una y otra vez. Una parte de ella estaba enojada en nombre de Naruto porque nadie más lo estaría. O tal vez estaba enojada porque se sintió como si le hubiera fallado. Él siempre fue un niño con un gran sueño. Era como un sol en un mundo que puede ser tan cruel, siempre dándole esperanza sin siquiera darse cuenta. Y ella nunca logró hacer algo por él a cambio. Ella no pudo hacerse amiga de la única persona que realmente necesitaba un amigo. Años desperdiciados porque ella no fue lo suficientemente valiente, segura y asertiva para lograr que él la notara como lo hacía con los demás. Naruto quería tener amigos, pero ella no pudo evitar preguntarse, ¿acaso estaba más enamorado del pensamiento de la amistad que de la amistad en sí? No era la primera vez que se preguntaba si Naruto entendía lo que significaba ser un amigo y tener uno a cambio. Para su suerte, logró encontrar a Iruka-sensei. Hoy pudo ver que su maestra estaba apurada, muy concentrada en algo que ella realmente no sabía. Ahora podía hablar con él, pero una vez más su timidez volvió a aparecer. No, era ahora o nunca. Si no podía preguntarle algo a su maestro, ¿cómo iba a hablar con Naruto? Iruka se había estado preparando para ir en busca de Naruto como un ninja cazador. Si había alguien que pudiera encontrarlo incluso en Konoha era él. Iruka estaba, en cierto modo, orgulloso de Naruto. A sus ojos, Naruto era brillante, pero perezoso. En la academia, el chico siempre era perezoso para concentrarse en clase, pero cuando hacía bromas, Naruto era realmente brillante con sus planes. ¿Cómo no se había dado cuenta hasta ahora? Naruto no era muy listo, sino más bien estratégico. No quería fallarle al chico con el que se había encariñado emocionalmente, pero al ver que Naruto no había logrado realizar ni el jutsu más simple, se vio obligado a decidir que aún no estaba listo para ser ninja. Francamente, Iruka empezaba a dudar de que Naruto pudiera graduarse. Y entonces ocurrió ese suceso. Ahora acaba de terminar su trabajo y preparación para el tiempo en que estará fuera. En su camino de salida se sorprendió un poco al encontrarse con Hinata. Entonces se detuvo a hablar con ella y ver cómo podía guiar a uno de sus antiguos alumnos. ¿En qué puedo ayudarte, Hinata? Me preguntaba si usted, sensei, había visto a Naruto-kun. Espetó Hinata, pateándose mentalmente por haber dejado escapar ese cariñoso honorífico. Al notar que Iruka ahora la estaba mirando los ojos, los nervios de Hinata se intensificaron poderosamente. No lo he visto desde que reprobó el examen de graduación. Y la última vez que lo vi estaba hablando con Mizuki-sensei, concluyó. Iruka se sorprendió un poco al saber que Hinata quería saber sobre Naruto. Así que eligió con cuidado sus siguientes palabras, pues no quería decirle que Naruto, en cierto modo, había traicionado a la aldea. Naruto ha pasado por muchos problemas en la vida y en los acontecimientos. Dijo Iruka. Continúa, le instó. Al ver que ya sabía de Mizuki, quizás era mejor que se lo dijera directamente en lugar de dejar que alguien más lo hiciera. Pensó Iruka. Voy a ser franco contigo, Hinata. Mizuki engañó a Naruto para que robara algo para los exámenes de graduación. Y después de unos sucesos esa noche, Naruto abandonó Konoha. Ella tartamudeó y dijo, pero él no traicionaría al pueblo de esta manera. Aunque decir que Hinata estaba sorprendida era quedarse corto. Todo su cerebro le gritaba que lo que había oído era mentira, pero podía entender por qué lo hizo. Solo puedo suponer que Naruto abandonó la aldea para intentar escapar del estrés de lo sucedido, explicó Iruka. La actitud de Hinata cambió al instante, pero no del todo como Iruka esperaba. Su mansedumbre dio paso a una mirada de férrea preocupación y algo parecido a la convicción. Iruka continuó. Me preocupa que se haya metido en muchos más problemas que antes, ahora que se fue, y que mucha gente incluso lo llame traidor, pero eso no es del todo cierto. Por ejemplo, puede que haya profanado el monumento del Hokage en el pasado, pero más que nada, Naruto quiere añadir su propia cara a ese monumento. El orgullo se notaba en su voz al decir esto. Hinata se sintió un poco mejor después de escuchar esto. Ya no estaba tan preocupada. Después de todo sabía que nada malo le podía pasar. Iruka estaba un poco sorprendido por esto. Su rostro mostraba preocupación. Le estaba dando aún más motivación para traer de regreso a Naruto. Entonces supongo que Naruto significa mucho más que un compañero de clase para ti, ¿no? Preguntó Iruka. ¿De verdad soy tan obvia? Preguntó Hinata en voz baja, ganándose un breve asentimiento de su maestra. Al percibir su decaimiento, Iruka extendió la mano y la puso en el hombro. El instructor la miró con simpatía mientras su rostro se ponía ligeramente rojo. Es solo que Naruto-kun trabaja tan duro a pesar de cómo lo tratan todos, y no pude evitar admirarlo. Y ahora que ya no está, siento que fue mi culpa, porque nunca me armé de valor para confrontarlo y hablar con él. Él es mi inspiración. Y nunca tuve la oportunidad de decirle esto. Bueno, ¿qué crees que habría hecho Naruto en esta situación?, preguntó Iruka. Pensando un poco dijo, creo que él no se rendirá por eso. Voy a volverme fuerte como él para poder enfrentarlo cuando regrese a la aldea y apoyarlo para que esté feliz de quedarse en la aldea, dijo Hinata con determinación en su voz. Ahora Iruka tenía aún más motivación para asegurarse de que Naruto regresara sano y salvo. Por mucho que quisiera continuar su conversación con Hinata, necesitaba prepararse e irse. Y ella necesitaba prepararse para su examen de mañana con Kurenai, pensó Iruka. Al día siguiente, todos fracasaron, dijo Kakashi. No tienen esperanza de convertirse en ninjas. Renunciar ahora y ahorrarles problemas a Konoha y a ustedes mismos. ¿Qué?, gritó Sakura. Ni hablar. Sasuke-kun jamás la perdonaría. Les daré una oportunidad más para que obtengan las campanas. Pasó las 2 cajas de vento a Sai y Sasuke y terminó, no le den ninguna a Sakura o fracasarán automáticamente. Con eso, el Capi Ninja desapareció en un remolino de hojas, dejando a los aspirantes Chunin comiendo solos. Empujando la lonchera hacia Sakura, Sasuke dijo, «Toma, come, todos necesitaremos nuestra fuerza si queremos tener alguna posibilidad de conseguir esas campanas». Sakura se sorprendió. ¿Qué? ¿Escuchaste Kakashi-sensei?, dijo. Nunca terminó porque Sai la interrumpió. Hace mucho que se fue. Sasuke tiene razón. Sakura empezó a comer con vacilación. Entre un remolino de hojas apareció un Kakashi enfurecido que gritó «todos», antes de hacer una pausa y terminar con un pase mucho más tranquilo y dulce. Los 3 Chunin se quedaron atónitos. ¿Qué había dicho? Sus pensamientos fueron interrumpidos por Kakashi, que empezó a hablar. Aquellos que abandonan su misión son basura. Aquellos que abandonan a sus compañeros son peores que basura. Señalando hacia la piedra conmemorativa, continuó. Ese es el monumento a los héroes más grandes de Konoha. Los valientes ninjas que murieron en el cumplimiento del deber. Los nombres de todos mis mejores amigos están en esa piedra, terminó Kakashi en voz baja. Nos vemos aquí mañana a las 8 para nuestra primera misión. Y dicho esto, se fue en un remolino de hojas, dejando a los Chunin a su suerte. Entonces, Sasuke-kun, ¿te gustaría tener una cita conmigo?, Sakura le preguntó al distante Uchiha. No, respondió antes de darse la vuelta y alejarse. ¿Por qué saldría contigo si esa chica Yamanaka es mucho más guapa? Se le preguntó a la Kunoichi de cabello rosado. Gritando, se lanzó hacia el usuario de tinta dejando a Sasuke mirando desde la distancia pensando, bueno, podría ser peor. Podría tener al doble en mi equipo. Ser ninja tenía sus ventajas. Poder golpear a la gente y robarles el dinero era una de ellas. Al principio, el joven rubio se negó, resignándose a dormir en el bosque o en cuevas. Poco a poco, la necesidad de comida y un techo le ganó la moral. Pero seguía asaltando solo a quienes creía que tenían dinero de sobra. El hecho de que llevaran más dinero también podría tener algo que ver con esto. Los comerciantes le vendieron pergaminos de ninjutsu si les pasaba un poco de rayo extra debajo de la mesa. Eso podría tener más que ver con su fascinación por el lugar que por la gente. Un poco, sin embargo. A pesar de sus mejores esfuerzos, el Nukenin no pudo conseguir que nadie le vendiera pergaminos que contuvieran jutsus reales. Era bastante obvio que no era un shinobi nativo. Pero logró conseguir algunas cosas útiles. Principalmente los 3 pergaminos que había dispuesto en el suelo del bosque frente a él, etiquetados como moldeado de chakras para principiantes, control de chakras para intermedios y manipulación avanzada de chakras. No son los textos definitivos sobre el control de los chakras, de ninguna manera, pero brindan instrucciones detalladas sobre cómo moldear los chakras en diferentes partes del cuerpo, así como ejercicios para aumentar el control. El último pergamino, y sin duda el más interesante, detallaba cómo manipular el chakra para usarlo en jutsus. También mencionaba algo llamado manipulación elemental, pero no profundizaba en el tema. Naruto había invertido la mayor parte del resto de sus impresionantes reservas de chakra en clones más condensados para patrullar los bosques por si había alguien cerca. Eso debería darle tiempo suficiente para darse a sí mismo y al pergamino prohibido una ventaja razonable. Naruto estaba entrenando solo de nuevo. Bueno, no solo, sino más bien consigo mismo usando el Takage Bunshin no Jutsu. Tuvo algunos combates de entrenamiento con sus clones. Pensó que era mejor entrenar consigo mismo, ya que sería una mejoría que simplemente no entrenar con nadie. Y con el paso del tiempo, descubrió el secreto del Takage Bunshin no Jutsu. Los clones retienen el conocimiento, y si entrena con ellos, el entrenamiento se acelera exponencialmente. Otros shinobi probablemente no sabían esto porque no podían hacer tantos clones como él. Mientras su leal Kage Bunshin seguía leyendo los pergaminos sobre el control del chakra, Naruto y otros 25 clones subían y bajaban de los árboles con las manos. Si bien podía crear más de 800 clones, no podía crear más de 25 capaces de moldear el chakra lo suficientemente bien como para ser útiles. Aún así, haber realizado 25 veces más trabajo había hecho maravillas para su control. Otros clones que no podían moldear chakra entrenaban para crear los sellos de mano para un nuevo jutsu a partir del pergamino. Esto les ayudó mucho a memorizarlos, ya que Naruto necesitaba mucho tiempo para memorizarlos. De lo que Naruto obtuvo del pergamino el nombre del jutsu era Kokuanyo no Jutsu. El usuario coloca una oscuridad alucinatoria en la vista de un objetivo, haciendo que no vea nada más que negro. Tenoso compara la sensación con estar en el fondo de un agujero profundo. Debido a que el objetivo no puede ver, es muy vulnerable a los ataques. Si bien esta desventaja es peligrosa incluso para el objetivo, no es insalvable, ya que el objetivo puede sentir los ataques para intentar defenderse y oler a sus atacantes para preparar un contraataque. Este jutsu podría ayudar mucho a Naruto, por lo que lo tomó con la mente fija en aprender el jutsu antes de que terminara la noche. Al día siguiente, Naruto había despertado y comido. Luego de salir de la cueva cerró un poco los ojos mientras se preparaba para comenzar otro día de entrenamiento, pero entonces escuchó unas voces cerca de él. Ahí está. Tiene que ser él. ¿Cuáles son las posibilidades de que lo encontremos mientras estamos en una misión? Imagínense qué recompensa podríamos obtener por él. Los ojos de Naruto se abrieron de golpe al oír voces. ¿Qué demonios?, gritó Naruto. A 25 pies de él había 4 shinobi de Konoha, todos con armas en mano y sonrisas de satisfacción en sus rostros. Naruto reconoció vagamente a uno de ellos como un jonin que había ido a la academia varias veces. Naruto observó a los ninjas reunidos, preparándose para el combate. Por suerte, el pergamino y la mochila estaban en la cueva, así que no tendría que preocuparse de que se dañaran en la pelea. No tienes ninguna oportunidad, muchacho. Nosotros 4, dijo uno de los shinobi señalando a los 3 hombres a su derecha. Tiene razón Naruto-kun. Por favor regresa en paz, dijo el chunin más pequeño, con una voz baja y agradable. Había esperado esto, pero eso no hizo que verlo en realidad fuera más fácil. Tenía 2 opciones. Tenía la ventaja de huir más tiempo del que podían perseguirlo, pero entonces dejaría atrás el pergamino y la mochila, o tendría que luchar contra estos hombres. ¿Pero realmente podría ganar esto? Eran de mayor rango que él, así que las posibilidades eran muy bajas. Pero en ese momento recordó el jutsu que aprendió la noche anterior. Así que tal vez tenía una oportunidad. Esta era su oportunidad de descubrir lo bueno que había llegado a ser durante este tiempo. Takage Bunshin no Jutsu, gritó Naruto mientras hacía los sellos manuales y 8 clones aparecieron del humo y fueron a atacar a los 4 shinobi. Los 4 derrotaron rápidamente a los 8 clones con sus armas, pero cuando regresaron la mirada y se prepararon para ir tras el original, lo vieron haciendo otro sello manual. Kokuanyo no Jutsu, gritó Naruto. De repente, toda la luz pareció desaparecer del área y los 4 shinobi se encontraron rodeados de completa oscuridad. ¿Qué está pasando?, gritó uno de los shinobi. ¿Qué pasa? Amarillo otro. ¿Qué demonios hizo ese mocoso?, gritó otro. Takage Bunshin no Jutsu, susurró Naruto mientras volvía a hacer 8 clones que fueron a atacar a los 4 shinobi esperando que ninguno de ellos fuera del tipo sensorial. Los clones rápidamente abrumaron a los 4 shinobi mientras sus gritos se podían escuchar en todo el bosque. Naruto entonces liberó ambos jutsus, ya que este nuevo consumía mucho chakra. Sabía que no debía desperdiciarlo al usar estos jutsus prohibidos, pues quién sabe qué más podría encontrar más adelante, y necesitaba estar preparado. Naruto se acercó a los shinobi caídos y los despojó de todo lo que consideró útil. Después de esto tomó su pergamino y su mochila ahora llena de comida, y algunos shurikens y kunai. Sin que Naruto lo supiera, los gritos de shinobi que había derrotado habían atraído a alguien que estaba cerca. Naruto estaba corriendo porque necesitaba escapar antes de que esos 4 shinobi despertaran. Pero en su prisa Naruto chocó contra algo o alguien ya que no era un árbol. Al ver que era un hombre, Naruto estaba listo para gritarle por no mirar por dónde iba, incluso si era él el que no miraba el camino. pero se detuvo al fijar la vista en el hombre. Era muy grande. Así que, retrocediendo unos pasos, Naruto vio de inmediato a un hombre muy grande, de piel azul, y una cosa envuelta de tamaño similar, sobre sus hombros. Naruto se incorporó de un salto mientras evaluaba esta nueva amenaza. Vaya, vaya, ¿qué tenemos aquí? El hombre empezó a hablar al aire como si hubiera público. Aquí estaba, intentando orinar tranquilamente, cuando de repente oí gritos. Vine a echar un vistazo y es un camarón. ¿Qué probabilidades hay de que sea así? El hombre de piel azul sonrió. Eso viene de un tipo con una capa negra cutre con nubes rojas, a pesar de tener la piel azul, espetó Naruto. Al menos yo llevo mi atuendo con estilo. El hombre sonrió aún más, como si fuera un tiburón. Tienes una lengua muy buena, ¿verdad, mocoso? Naruto no supo cómo responder, así que hizo lo que mejor sabía hacer, insultos. Y tienes unos dientes preciosos, ¿verdad, viejo? La sonrisa desapareció. ¿A quién llamas, viejo? Preguntó el hombre tiburón mientras su mano ya tocaba la espada que tenía detrás. ¿Quién más está aquí, Osan? Naruto sonrió. No me hagas cerrar esa boca, mocoso. El hombre tiburón hizo un gesto amenazador. Inténtalo, tiburón Osan, dijo Naruto mientras formaba los sellos de su jutsu. Al instante, 10 Naruto más aparecieron a su lado, listos para atacar. El hombre tiburón sonrió ferozmente ante esto. Kage Bunshin, así que eres un ninja. Adoptó una postura relajada. Vamos, veamos de qué pasta estás hecho, pequeña mancha naranja. Naruto y sus clones se separaron en varias direcciones, creando un triángulo con el hombre en el centro. Uno de estos clones tomó el pergamino gigante de Naruto con la mochila y se escondió mientras Naruto y sus clones atacaban al hombre. El hombre azul seguía riendo mientras les asestaba patas rápidas a todos, haciéndolos volar en la misma dirección de la que venían. Los clones se dispersaron, pero Naruto se estrelló contra un gran árbol. El hombre tiburón se quedó allí parado y rió. Necesitarás 1000 clones para que me lo tome en serio, mocoso. Mientras se levantaba, Naruto dijo molesto su nombre, Naruto. Naruto. El hombre tiburón imaginó una rebanada blanca de pescado curado con un remolino rosa incrustado. Me llamo Naruto, dijo el chico con orgullo. ¿Quieres 1000 clones? Si eso es lo que se necesita para que me reconozcas, que así sea. Naruto formó los sellos nuevamente mientras miraba a los ojos del hombre tiburón, y el hombre se sorprendió del fuego que ardía en esos ojos azules. Chapter 3. The Fox, the Shark and a Weasel. Don't be stupid, kid. You'll die. Don't make me laugh. Naruto sneered. Tahu gahebun sin no jutsu. Naruto yelled. The forest was engulfed in smoke as the jutsu took effect. For a moment, it appeared as if the entire forest was on fire as the smoke waned, and there was orange and yellow everywhere. The shark man gaped, his mouth open, as he saw a brat, barely 11 years old, make close to 1,000 clones. Very determined 1,000 clones. He noticed. Tell you what, kid, the man said, if you can move me from this spot, I'll recognize you as a shinobi. I will not even use my sword either, deal? He smirked. Naruto and all of his orange clones rushed to the man with a loud war cry. The blue man cursed as he jumped higher. There was no way he could fight so many of these clones hand to hand without a scratch. Even if he stopped and destroyed hundreds of clones, a few would get close enough to probably nick him or get a good hit. Not that the hit would do any damage, but his pride didn't allow him to let himself get hit by an inexperienced brat, wearing orange no less. Well, I gotta give it to you, brat. You are a decent ninja, even if you wear orange. He grinned. But if you think that you can take me down with a rough strategy like that, you're just plain stupid. The man formed a series of hand seals, ending at the snake seal. The man then took a deep breath. Suitan Baku Sui Shoha. He yelled as a huge amount of water gushed out of his mouth. The water kept coming until it felt like there was a waterfall there, with the man rising with the increasing water. The water kept forming waves upon waves, with the shark man standing at the top, looking like he was riding the wave. The water just held until the whole jutsu was half as high as the forest, which was pretty high in itself, and then with a mighty roar, released itself. Huge waves of water crashed into the clones in its way. Most of the clones were dispelled by the force with which the attack hit them. The ones that survived were washed away into trees and then dispelled as well. The original Naruto was also amidst them. He couldn't believe his eyes as he watched hundreds of his clones get washed away. As he watched them dispel, wide-eyed, he could imagine them drowning and dying in different ways in the water, almost as if it was happening to him. The clones were also giving him a headache again. The blue-skinned man laughed as Naruto was speechless. That's why you need to think before just using brute force, Brad. He grinned. A low-level ninja might fall for it, but an elite would only take the game a level higher, said the shark man as he stopped his water jutsu and now stood in face-to-face with the brat. Well, I gotta give it to you, brat. You are a decent shinobi. Even if you wear orange, what is a kid like you doing here alone? Asked the shark man. Naruto was not sure should he tell the truth. No one had really asked him until now what he was doing here. Maybe you should just be honest. I left my village. Everyone treated me differently for something that wasn't my fault because I was born that way, and I was lied my whole life. I simply chose to leave and abandon all the pain. Here I can maybe reach my true potential. But to be honest, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do or be, either, in this world. Said Naruto, the sadness could be seen in his face. You too, said the shark man. He feel like he was looking at himself in a way. Like him, his clan was lowly due to racism and not being useful to his village. This made him like to be alone. He always had that personality that was rejected by others due to racism of being low cost since childhood. His village had the cruelest ninja system in existence. He was from the Hoshigaki clan, which is specialized in water-based jutsu, and this clan gives them the ability to merge with the legendary sword Samahata, one sword of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Naruto's ears caught the words. Your village, what is it called? Asked Naruto, now wanting to know more about him. Kirigakure, said the shark man. Naruto looked at the Hittite. The symbol of the village shone on the metal protector, albeit with a line drawn through it, telling that the man was no longer loyal to the village. You left your village too. Do you miss it? He asked. The man snorted at the question. Not really. How come? Asked Naruto. Cause like you, I don't enjoy living in a world of lies, the man said, looking at the boy with a grin. Naruto stared at the man with confusion. He then imagined the man being lied a lot too. Were people mean to you? Asked Naruto. The man blinked at the question. Nah, he said as he recalled certain memories of his past. Ones that always seemed to have him isolated from others during missions. We just couldn't really talk to one another. He noticed the boy was lost at his answer. When you're different from everyone, they tend to make you an outcast. And, well, I was too different from them, said the shark man. So people in your village didn't like talking to you? Asked Naruto. I guess not, said the man. Well, I like talking to you, said Naruto. The man shifted his weight slightly, feeling uncomfortable with the boy's comment. He really didn't know what to do or say. This boy had a very similar past to his. Let me tell you an interesting bit of trivia, one that should make you see how this world works and how people work. The man said, standing tall before the boy. Sharks start out as eggs, but incubate and hatch in the womb. Naruto blinked. Sometimes the number of pups is less than the number of eggs that were fertilized. Do you know why? Asked the shark man. Naruto's nose scrunched up as he tried to think of an answer. Cannibalism. The man's eyes grew dark with delight, making the boy take a step back. The pups start eating each other within the mother's womb the moment they hatch. Naruto gulped at the mental image before the man continued. They start killing their siblings the moment they enter the world, viewing everything they see as nothing more than prey. You and me may be the same right now, but the man grinned at the boy, showing those sharp teeth of his. Be careful of everyone, including me. Naruto frowned at the warning, but he thought there was something off in the man's words. But, the Naruto mumbled, catching the man's attention. We aren't fish, Naruto pointed out. He thought it was weird how the man was trying to compare them to sharks. Maybe the man thought he was a shark based off his looks? Either way, Naruto couldn't see themselves as any kind of fish. The shark man observed the blonde silently, deep in thought. The boy's comment was so naive, and yet it reminded him of his partner's words. Before he could say more, a new figure appeared, also wearing the similarly designed cloak. Kisame, the newcomer said softly to the shark man. You said you were going to relieve yourself. Why is it that I find you playing with a kid? Kisame turned to the newcomer. Ah, Itachi-san. I really was peeing when this orange brat caught my eye. I just came to investigate the brat, and we had a little chat. This boy is very similar to the two of us, said Kisame as he saw the boy like him understand that they lived in a world full of lies. Itachi-san turned to look at the blonde, his eyes narrowed. What are you doing out of the village, Uzumaki-kun? Naruto was shocked at the mention of his name. Naruto stiffened and entered defensive stances while Kisame turned to his partner in surprise. You know this brat? He asked. Naruto glanced at the newcomer's Itaiate. His eyes widened as the symbol of the Leaf Village shone on the metal protector, albeit with the same line drawn through it, telling Itachi-san was no longer loyal to Konoha. Who is this brat, Itachi-san? Kisame asked, curious. For Itachi to know this brat's name, he couldn't be a drifter. His name is Uzumaki Naruto. The last I saw him was in the Leaf Village before I left, Itachi said, the expression on his face not change at all. Naruto had a confused look on his face, his eyes almost slits as he frowned, trying to remember this man. Who are you? Asked Naruto. Itachi's expression did not change as he stared at the boy. You do seem familiar, but I can't place you, Naruto continued, his face still a picture of confusion. This man here is Uchiha Itachi. Kisame clapped Itachi's back. Very slowly, Itachi turned to face his partner. Sorry, Kisame said, not sounding sorry at all. Itachi turned to face Naruto again. You didn't answer my question, Uzumaki-kun. There was a short silence. It was broken by Naruto pounding his fist into his hand, his eyes wide. Now I remember, I saw you in the village, said Naruto as a small gust of wind flew by them, as all stayed silent. Kisame face-palmed, and Itachi gave Naruto an odd look. Noschi, brat, Kisame snapped. He just said he saw you in the Leaf Village. It means you would have seen him at some point too. So what? Naruto defended himself. I never said he was my friend or anything. I just Naruto stopped as he looked at Itachi again. That's right, he continued. You look like Sasuke team. He pointed his finger at Itachi accusingly. Kisame's eyebrows went up. If he had learned anything since he was a partner with Yukika, it was that any mention of his dead clan or still alive brother only ended up him going all moody and emo. True to his prediction, Itachi's mood dipped. On the outside, there was no change in expression. There were tiny things that Kisame had picked up that let him read Itachi sometimes. It seemed that Naruto could also. He lowered his finger as his expression changed to worry. I'm sorry, he said. Itachi said nothing, but in a swirl of wind, he was gone. Did I say something wrong? Naruto asked Kisame. Kisame shook his head. It's a sore topic, brat. That's right, you wouldn't know me, would you? Kisame heaved the sword onto his shoulder. I am Hoshigaki Kisame, wielder of the great sword Samahata. Naruto stared at the colossus weapon. It was double his size. He was curious as to why the sword was all bandaged up, and he could swear he had heard hisses coming from underneath the fabric before. He got close to the sword, reaching to touch it. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Kisame warned. Why? Asked Naruto. Unless you want Samahata's scales to cut your hand open, replayed Kisame. Samahata? Naruto slowly repeated before putting the pieces together. Your sword has a name? And it can hear you too. Kisame patted the sword, who made a strange hissing sound. Cool, said Naruto, unsure how to answer. Kisame found a nice, flat rock and sat down on it. Naruto followed his example and found place to sit as well. It seems you aren't as pouty as before, said Kisame. Naruto looked at him with a smile on his face. That's cause I realized something. What? Asked Kisame. You're just like me, said Naruto. Kisame raised an eyebrow, never expecting such comment from a child. We are different from everyone else, Naruto said, straightening up. We both want to live in a world or place without lies. That's why you left your village, right? Because you don't like lies? Asked Naruto. Kisame said nothing. I'm happy to know I'm not the only one who knows what loneliness is, and that we can help each other. Naruto admitted. You really believe that makes us the same? Kisame questioned. And maybe because we're alone in this world, said Naruto, then looked with his bright blue eyes to see Kisame simply staring at him in silence. Naruto hoped he didn't say anything wrong. Well, we were alone in the past, but now we have each other, he said with a bright grin of his own. There was a foreign sensation deep in Kisame's frigid chest. At first it felt too hot that made him almost wince, but it quickly settled down to a more gentle, warm tug. In the past, Kisame was broken too, and went on with his philosophy that the life was meaningless and that you can't trust others than yourself. The guilt of killing his own comrades never left, and that was what made him to become someone who sees no value in life and considered himself worthless. He got lost in a mist. His life has made him feel inhuman. Kisame looked away, his face unresponsive with any visible emotions. His eyes shifted to the forest as he heard rustling of leaves and forest. He stared for a little while, and before he had the chance to check out the source of the noise, Naruto's stomach let out a huge rumble. He turned back to Naruto, who had a hand on his stomach, frowning deeply at his body for showing weakness. Let me show you how to catch fish. Night is approaching, Kisame said. Naruto's eyes brightened up. He was surprised at how Kisame didn't mock his thoughts. Was Kisame's willingness to teach him how to fish an invitation to get closer to him? He was not sure, but that didn't stop him as he decided to follow him. Before leaving, he got a memory from where his clone dispelled, and now he knew where his clone had hidden his backpack and the giant scroll. As he was following Kisame, Naruto noticed that Kisame was lost in his thoughts. They both went dismissing the earlier noise as nothing more but from a passing animal. A world without lies. Kisame could hear the masked man's voice in his mind, reminding him of what he was fighting for. I will free you from the pain of falsehood. I will make a place for you. Tell me, brat, have you ever wished to live in a world where there is no sadness, no war, no chaos, no lies, and the dead are even alive? Asked Kisame. Naruto stood confused, a little not being sure for a moment. Yes, I guess, but is this even possible? He asked. Maybe one day, but until then there's a long way to go. Replayed Kisame. Kisame didn't fully want to reveal too much, but if the kid continued to live and survive in this world long enough, he may be able to be part of this perfect world or even help them create it. His future will sure be interesting. Maybe I convince him to buy other clothes which are not so orange. I do wonder how he will get along with Itachi-san, thought Kisame as the two made their way to a river. Night. After Kisame and Naruto caught some fish, they went to make a campfire. Naruto looked at the fire and was not sure what would happen the next day. Kisame decided to break the silence and ask, "And what are you thinking, brat?" As I said back then, I'm not sure where to go or what to do other than training since I left my village, said Naruto. You could, come with us if you'd like, Kisame said, not looking at the boy. Naruto was looking at Kisame with widened eyes. Kisame turned to look at Naruto, his face serious. Well, Naruto straightened, his face a mixture of surprise and confusion. Why? Well, why not? I get pretty bored traveling alone, and I guess so do you, said Kisame. Wouldn't your partner mind? Naruto asked, thinking slowly. Kisame didn't answer immediately. I don't think so, he mused. Although he is a difficult man, he is also a bit of a lone wolf. But I could use the company. He yawned. As long as we do our missions, the organization doesn't need to know. But we'd probably leave you behind when we go for those missions, as they are really dangerous, so it doesn't really matter. There was no harm in accepting, although Naruto would have to think more first. I wouldn't mind to come with you too, said Naruto. Kisame nodded and then grinned. You remind me a little of me and Itachi-san. He chuckled. Huh? Naruto raised his eyebrows. I find you interesting. Kisame scratched his jaw. It was impossible not to find the blonde interesting. He was made up of contradictions. Always smiling, yet in pain. Full of hate and love at the same time, thought Kisame. After seeing Naruto and mentioning his clan Itachi, has been thinking what to do now. he still didn't like the mention of his family. His reputation usually scared people to even avoid looking him in the eye, let alone talk. In the Akatsuki, members tended to leave each other's past alone. Orochimaru, before his sudden departure from the group, had not mentioned Konoha, let alone the Uchiha clan. Kisame had once mentioned them at the time they had been assigned as partners, when he had observed that both men were similar in the fact that they had killed their village members. After that, it seemed that Kisame had picked up on the fact that it was a touchy subject and had never brought it up again. One of the reasons he liked Kisame was that the man understood that Itachi was used to being alone and silent, and that he preferred it that way. To have the blonde mention his brother so casually unnerved him. Ever since he had left, he had wondered whether he had made the right choice. Naruto was here, outside the Konoha, and he needed to find how and why. Itachi wondered if it was a sign of good luck or bad luck that he encountered him. A memory from his past made him wonder this. Flashback. A man, a dark man. Itachi couldn't exactly put into words just what was dark about this man. Basically, everything about him was dark. "Are you Uchiha Itachi?" the man asked, looking down on him. The right side of his face was covered by bandages. He was clad in black, but his arm from his left shoulder was exposed, revealing the white robe he wore underneath. His left eye alone glared at Itachi. "I see." Unflinchingly, Itachi met the gaze of the man clouded in a sinister aura. "You are the bearer of bad luck." "Bad luck?" "They call chaos those lines," the man said, pointing at the lines running from Itachi's eyes down his cheeks. "Chaos will follow you throughout your life. Chaos will follow you throughout your life." The words the man left lingering in the air became sharp thorns and pierced Itachi's heart. Flashback end. All he could do for now was to return and learn more. Later on, he had found Kisame and Naruto, who made a campfire, and decided to join them without saying a word. Naruto and Kisame saw that Itachi had sat down beside them. "I'm sorry," said Naruto. Then, after a little silence, he continued, "You felt sad by what I said." Naruto glanced at the man. Contrary to people's beliefs, he wasn't totally blind to his surroundings. Some things, like pain and loneliness, he picked up very easily. It may have been because he was so familiar with those emotions and the way people dealt with them that he could spot them when even seasoned ninja couldn't. When this man had arrived, Naruto hadn't really paid attention to him, being distracted by Kisame. But after he had mentioned Sasuke, he had noticed the minute flash of pain in the man's eyes. Naruto did not like to see others in the same pain he had to go through. The three of them sat in silence for a while. Itachi knew it wouldn't last. A whole minute passed before the blonde's patience finally snapped. "Are you mad at me?" Naruto peered at Itachi's face. It was as expressionless as it had been when he had arrived. "No," Itachi assured him. He knew the blonde wouldn't keep quiet, so he switched the conversation to something that interested him. At least get some information while the blonde talked. "What are you doing out here outside the village?" Naruto took some seconds before responding with almost the same words he told Kisame. "I left my village. Everyone treated me differently for something that wasn't my fault because I was born that way, and I was lied my whole life. I simply chose to leave and abandon all the pain. Here I can maybe reach my true potential. But to be honest, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be or be doing in this world," said Naruto. When looking at the blonde's eyes, Itachi could see he was lost, the same way Kisame was lost in the mist and an abyss. Taking a deep breath, Naruto continued, "At the academy I was in, I couldn't use the Bunshin no Jutsu, and I was not allowed to pass. But after an instructor tricked me into stealing something, telling me it was a chance to pass the exams, but later I found out I was fooled and the instructor tried to take my own life. I defeated him with Kagebushin no Jutsu. I learned that night from Scroll, and then I chose to leave and become a real shinobi without having anyone to stop me or hold me back from my potential. And since then I trained and became stronger, and that all I guess." Finished Naruto. "Oh, that right when we fought, you had a scroll and backpack before," said Kisame. "Oh yes, I sent a clone to hide them somewhere close by. I think they should be okay until tomorrow," said Naruto. Itachi listened to the boy's tale in silence. He wanted to point out that the Hokage wouldn't have let an incident like this occur ever again, but stopped himself, not only because Kisame was there, but he didn't want to explain his reasons to the boy. And the boy could also perform a powerful technique at such a young age already. He started to grow curious of the boy's skills, but decided to leave it for the next day. Well, as I said back, then you can come with us if you don't have something better to do than training, said Kisame. Yes, maybe we can fight again tomorrow. It's nice to have someone to spar with, said Naruto, hoping to take his rematch. Sure, just don't forget what I told you, and try to think more before sending all those Kagebushin at once, said Kisame. While Kisame and Naruto continued their conversation, Itachi sat quietly in his own thoughts. Naruto said he had seen Itachi before in the village, but it looked like Naruto didn't fully remember him as Itachi did. Flashback. A loud, piercing voice penetrated Itachi's ears on his way home after a mission. In front of Itachi's field of vision, who had stopped his feet instinctively, there was a small park. It was already a late hour. It was evening. The sun had set at west long ago, and everything near him had begun being wrapped in a very dim light. The boy who had burst into laughter before was standing on a swing. In the direction he was looking to, there were 3 human silhouettes running away. Maybe they were his friends. You guys are no match for Uzumaki Naruto-sama Databeo, the boy of the swing yelled. The human figures were leaving while talking to each other without even turning around towards the boy for some reason. The boy, who had called himself Naruto, while staring at the 3 figures that looked in good terms, sat on the swing, looking lonely. To all appearance, the words of before were just a bluff. After the boy gave off his name, Itachi recognized him. There wasn't a single person in the village that didn't know Uzumaki Naruto. The boy in front of his eyes was involved in the Nine Tails attack that had terrified the villagers. He was the child in whose body the Nine Tails was dwelling. Whenever he walked a road, everyone lowered their voices. There was just one person that didn't know that the Nine Tails was dwelling in his body. Naruto himself. It had been sealed in his body before he could even be aware of the calamity of the village, and lived while being feared by everyone. Naruto didn't understand why he was being tyrannized by everyone. Both his parents were not in this world anymore. There was no one to pour their unconditional love into him. For some reason, Itachi turned his steps towards the park. He calmly walked towards a swing that was rocking feebly and sat next to Uzumaki Naruto. Whoa! Noticing that Itachi had appeared all of a sudden, Naruto almost fell off the swing in surprise. Thrashing his arms and legs confusedly beyond necessity, he remained in the swing somehow, and threw a suspicious look towards Itachi. Don't frighten me like that, Tabeo. Saw the air. Who are you? Asked Naruto as he stared at him with round eyes. Itachi turned his eyes right towards him while rocking the swing. It doesn't matter who I am. I mustn't talk with strangers, my mom. You haven't one, Itachi said, and Naruto put his right hand behind his head, expressing a smile that looked like an embarrassed grin. You know that too? Uzumaki Naruto is famous for being a mischievous brat. Am I that much of a celebrity? In some way. Without catching Itachi's irony, Naruto smiled happily. Your friends ran away. Guys like those who don't understand my pranks aren't my friends, Tabeo. Naruto's voice was awfully cheerful. It seemed that he was behaving frantically, cheerfully, not to show his loneliness. Everybody knew Naruto's true identity. The Nine Tails attack towards the village had left deep scars even now. Even the Uchiha clan, which was suspected of having manipulated the Nine Tails, still couldn't escape from the effects of the attack. Itachi himself had sustained many times a defamation without having been responsible because of that incident. Maybe he was the only person in this village that came in contact with that boy, in whose body the main cause of it was dwelling. Naruto was the biggest victim of the Nine Tails incident, so to speak. The details of the Nine Tails attack were top secret in the village. The truth had been hidden into the darkness. Only Naruto was left. Naruto was part of the darkness of the village. The village consisted of while sacrificing existences like Naruto. A member of the upper reaches had sealed that calamity inside Naruto, diverted people's dissatisfaction by persecuting the Uchiha clan, and kept pulling the strings of the village deftly to hide their own darkness by generating intentionally other darkness. And the truth was that also Itachi was part of the village's darkness, because the Umbu was the true darkness of the village. Young mister. No. Naruto was staring at him with big round eyes. You fell silent all of a sudden. Are you all right? Naruto asked with upturned eyes, looking worried. I am okay. Good. It's almost time to go back home. Since there's no one to go back home with. Naruto acted though, turning the corners of his mouth down. Well then, I'll go back home. Naruto looked exaggeratedly surprised to Itachi, who had stood up. Good luck. Itachi thought that those words he spat out could hardly help him. However, Naruto rubbed his nose with a finger while grinning out loud, looking happy. Then he jumped vigorously from the swing and pointed his index at Itachi, standing straight. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I'll become Hokage one day, Dadabayo. Really, Hokage? A fire was lit in Itachi's chest. Even if he was burdened by the darkness of the village, that boy hadn't resigned himself to his destiny. Without holding a grudge towards the village, without hating people, he had faith in his dream with honest eyes. I hope you will. Of course I will, Tabayo. I'll better keep that in mind until that time, young mister. Giving him a smile in reply, Itachi turned his back on Naruto and walked away. The stars were sparkling in the whole sky. Flashback end. It seems the boy like him had probably lose hope in ever becoming Hokage, just like he had to sacrifice his dream for a greater good. Naruto was lost in the mist the same way Kisame used to be. Naruto had already fallen asleep, and Kisame too, which means Kisame had already made some Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu to protect the place until tomorrow. Chapter 4. Painful Truths. Naruto woke up and saw that the only one there was Itachi holding a rabbit. Morning, Uzumaki, said Itachi. Morning, said Naruto. Itachi noticed Naruto's gaze. Dinner, he explained. Naruto looked away from the rabbit, embarrassed at being caught staring at Itachi's food. Come, make yourself useful. Itachi walked out with a few sticks and handed them to a confused Naruto. Make a small fire. Naruto set them down in a bunch and started to make fire. In under a minute, Naruto backed away to reveal a bright flame roaring away. So, where is Kisame? Naruto finally asked. He is getting food for the traveling. Replayed Itachi. Okay, said Naruto. They both sat in silence for a few minutes. Naruto was not really sure if he should try to make conversation or if it was better just to keep silent. He wanted to say something, yet he didn't know what else to ask other than, where was Kisame? The food was finally ready, and Naruto was surprised when Itachi shared his rabbit with him. Thank you, said Naruto with a smile as he started to eat. They both eat in silence. Naruto looked happy as he was enjoying the food. After a little time passed, Naruto noticed again Itachi's hitate, which made him question, So why did you leave Konoha? Asked Naruto. Itachi gave him an odd look. The blonde didn't seem to know what happened to his clan. But not having someone to talk in the village could explain why he probably didn't hear about the event. It doesn't matter. We can't change the past. Replayed Itachi. Oh well, that's true, but that doesn't mean we can't make our future better, said Naruto, giving an encouraging smile. How can you just always smile? Itachi asked. Do you not feel anything? Is there no pain in your heart? Ido datebayo. Naruto said simply. That is why I know that I must continue to be happy. If I don't, I will get lost in dark, and I will not be able to be happy or to become a real shinobi. Uzumaki and Itachi began. When you think to a real shinobi, what comes to your mind? Do you see a hero? A silent killer? He stared at Naruto. This was important. He had decided to give Naruto the means to make his own choices, but he had seen more than one shinobi turn in on themselves when they came across this question without help. Too many people couldn't separate the person from the job. Naruto looked down for a moment, deep in thought. Itachi waited patiently for his answer, and Naruto had sensed that this was something very important, so he tried not to answer wrong. Finally, Naruto looked at Itachi. I think of someone with freedom, he said. Itachi blinked, confused. Someone with freedom? In what way? He asked. Naruto took a deep breath. A shinobi has power, but that isn't who they are. A shinobi is someone that can protect or destroy. That power, it means you can choose your own path. Right? Itachi just stared, so Naruto continued. Some people back in Konoha think this was my fate, to be in pain for the rest of my life, said Naruto as he regarded the fire. I have fought against it ever since that day. No matter what happens, no matter how many times they strike me down, I haven't truly lost until I don't stand up and smile again. Naruto's voice broke a little. No one can take that away from me. He then glanced at Itachi. When you left the first time yesterday, I saw the pain in your eyes. I recognize it because I have seen those eyes many times in the mirror. I have felt a pain that I don't wish on even my enemies. The pain of loneliness is like a never-ending nightmare. But I choose to ignore the pain and find whatever happy thing I can. To me, that little happy moment is more important than the continuous stabbing in my heart. He glanced sideways at the Uchiha. That is why I know that you too can stand up again, whatever your pain may be. Itachi listened to the boy's reasoning, but it was not that easy. That is just talk, Uzumaki-kun. You can stand there and say this because you haven't truly been tested by fate yet. You stand there defiant of the hand you have been dealt with. You rebel against whatever forces you believe are responsible for your plight. You stand there a victim. Naruto begun, but Itachi continued. You haven't been forced into a corner. A corner where no matter what you choose, you damn yourself to an eternity of misery. The lives of thousands of innocents haven't been thrust into your hand. Yes, I was. Maybe not the last part, but I was forced to leave Konoha. If I didn't, who knows what would have happened to me. Actually, even if nothing would have happened. That right nothing would have changed. I would have not even had a chance to become a shinobi. If I didn't rebel and leave, I'd still be a scrawny kid with terrible chakra control, who's too smart to ignore, but too dumb to be useful. Almost everyone in my class were against me in what I say or do. I was an outcast. Heck, even the teachers too. And I know about that damn fox only because the teacher who tried to kill me told me, yelled Naruto, finally letting his anger come outside. Itachi stayed calm and waited for the blonde to calm down. Sorry, I don't want to sound like this, said Naruto as the man in front of him didn't deserve to be yelled or blamed for this. Uzumaki-kun, do you ever thought that maybe a part of the problem was you? Itachi asked. Naruto frowned. Oh, you mean like how every single person says the problem is me? No, why would that thought ever once cross my mind? He replied sarcastically. I don't mean to offend you, but maybe this will help you in the future. There was one particular problem on your end in regards to your training in academy. I noticed back then when I watched you and my brother. It wasn't your skills, it wasn't the fox, and it wasn't your behavior. It was frankly your conviction to your goals. Naruto looked confused. What do you mean? He asked. Okay, you make it no secret that you wanted to become Hokage, right? He asked as Naruto nodded. And of course, most people don't believe you'll ever succeed. And while it would be easy to blame the fox or social stigma for why they dismiss you so much, let's ignore that for now. Let's pretend those are not reasons. Now, what other reason could people have for dismissing your claims and dreams? Naruto just shrugged. Dunno. Part of it is how you express yourself, Uzumaki-kun. Shouting out to the whole world that you're going to become the greatest Hokage ever is more acceptable from a child half your age or younger. At your current age, it comes across less as I really mean it, and more as pay attention to me. Naruto frowned, clearly offended by this. Think of it this way. Imagine if, let's say, Sasuke said, I'm going to become Hokage. The exact same way you say you're going to be Hokage. Naruto's face became confused as Sasuke was mentioned, but Itachi continued. Let's say he stood up, threw his fist in the air, and screamed it like the volume somehow makes it truer. Would you really believe that he actually meant it? Or would you roll your eyes and tell him to shut up? The message was sinking in. So, people don't believe me because of the way I say it? He asked. That's part of it, not all of it. Itachi answered. Another part of it is the effort you put into it. People are going to judge you by what they've seen and do, and most people don't see you actually trying to become Hokage. Naruto protested. But not everyone sees this. In the academy, Everyone saw Sasuke, took his training seriously and succeed because of it. You, on the other hand, everyone saw you goof off and cut class, and as a result fail. Why would anyone take your dreams seriously if you don't take the work seriously? I did. It was just so boring, all the learning. Naruto objected. So, you want to become Hokage, but only until it gets boring to do so? No. But that's how people see it, Uzumaki-kun. He warned, one of the reasons Kisame respects you now is because in that fight you had with him, it was a fight that mattered to you. He told me, you show him you weren't only talk, but you were also ready to prove yourself to get his acknowledgement as a true shinobi. Really? Yes. But as I was saying, in the academy you acted like you were only there because you had to be, not because you wanted to be. Sure, the teacher you're talking of is proof that some of the teachers were against you and probably made you fail on purpose. But if you weren't really trying to learn anything in the first place, that's squarely on you. I was trying to learn, they just weren't teaching me anything worth learning. Naruto protested. When I was in the academy, they learned some stuff we use when out traveling or camping. Same with history of the elemental nations and battlefield tactics. And the rest were left for Jonin to cover. And most of them I learned alone. Said Itachi, remembering a Jonin teacher he hated for not allowing him and his team to take the Chunin exams. Naruto was unconvinced. I already know how to sleep outside and scrounge for food, so there is nothing I didn't already know. Itachi was a little annoyed, getting the feeling that the boy was either being stubborn or still missing the point. All right, then let me show you another reason. You wanted to become Hokage, right? Naruto nodded. What do you intend to do as Hokage? Protect people, duh. And how exactly do you intend to do that? What will be your village management policies? What laws do you want to create or remove? What allies do you want to reach out to? What will be your economic priorities? Naruto again shrugged. I would have figured out that stuff when I got the job. Do you want to work on all that stuff? Naruto was silent for a bit, then sighed. Not really, no. Which brings me to my other reason. You say you wanted to become Hokage, but you don't seem like you really want the job. You like the idea of being Hokage and having all the perks that come with it, but when it comes to the actual work involved, you're completely disinterested. You're not considering what an actual Hokage has to go through. Naruto wanted to protest, but he didn't know how. Let me give you another example. Imagine you succeeded in getting that girl with pink hair from your class to want to date you. What exactly do you think would happen? Easy. She'd be nicer to me and want to be around me more. And Naruto blinked. Well, we do stuff obviously, and maybe more people would start being nicer to me too. But what kind of stuff will you do? Other than take her to your favorite ramen stand? Naruto shrugged. I don't know. I'm no expert on these sorts of things. Sounds to me more like you don't really want her as your girlfriend. Naruto didn't know what to answer. He had thought about this one night, but he never come to an answer, leaving it for another time to think of. You want her to be nicer to you, and you think you can have her popularity, but beyond that you don't want her. I don't know what I want, Naruto admitted. What you really want is for your problems to go away. You haven't thought beyond that, and you don't know what you do as Hokage. That is why people didn't take you serious or training you properly, because at the end of the day, you don't want to learn what they teach. All you want is attention and praise, nothing more. Itachi knew it was cruel to tell him the truth like this, but the boy should never develop a victim complex. If he did, it will lead to him ignoring all responsibility. He might start acting rude and under the impression that no one else is allowed to be upset at him for it. Itachi wanted to help the boy to realize that the happiness he wants may not be the happiness he needs. Well, why is that a bad thing? Naruto yelled, tears in the corners of his eyes. Because no one owes you any attention or praise. You're entitled to basic human decency, but more than that, you have to earn it. You can't get away with demanding everyone to treat you like you're special. Naruto took a deep breath to calm down. He may be angry, but the good thing is deep down, he wants to be happy. Unlike some people, he wants to resolve the issue, not just throw that anger in someone else's face. Then what should I do right now? Other than continue to run away from my past. Like you said, the past can't be changed. There is nothing I can do now that I have become a rogue shinobi, said Naruto, closing his eyes and feeling like he was lost in abyss. Like Itachi, he couldn't change his past. That not true. You do exist, and your action have an influence. There is always redemption. Naruto reopened his eyes, and Itachi continued. No matter what you've done, you never know what sort of person you are till the end. But when will I know? Asked Naruto. The moment of death is when you know what sort of person you are. That's what death is, don't you think? Yes, but what should I do until that time comes? Right now, you are in conflict with the boy you were and the one you are now, the past and the present. You must learn to choose what path you will continue, or else you will fall into an abyss of self-loathing and doubt. But ultimately, what you do, it is not my decision, but yours. We create our own destiny. You have to create your own. Naruto stared a little and let the words stick in. I think you are right, and if I don't like my current destiny, then I'm going to change it. He said now with a new light of hope in his eyes. Maybe it was his turn now to help now. As he said back then, I haven't ever experienced those things you have, so I don't know what to say about it. But I'm sure if you tell me, I will show you the way where you can smile again and help you the same way you did. Because as you said, no matter what you've done, there is always redemption. At least for yourself, if not for others. Right? Asked Naruto while Itachi was cursing the blonde in his mind for using his own words against him. Itachi gave a nod and asked, what are you planning to do with your future Uzumaki-kun? Naruto thought for a while. In Konoha, he yearned for companionship, to be recognized and to be loved. He wanted to be looked at and appreciated. He wanted to be needed and feel worthy, especially when he had nothing and no one. I wanted to be a Hokage, but maybe not just to have these things we mentioned. When I read about them and their stories, I wanted to become like them for different reasons. I wanted to protect people. So maybe I just want to help people or protect them like a true Hokage would do. Even if I don't become one, said Naruto. And what do you think now about Konoha? What about them? Asked Itachi. I don't want to take revenge. If I do this, I will only be proving that I am the monster they all are afraid of. I'm not that type of person, and I will not let them turn me into one. He said, then took a deep breath and continued. You and I are both from Konoha, so I know there are good people there as well. Maybe I will explore the world with you in Kisame and protect people as a true Hokage would do, said Naruto, now happy that he realized what he could do from now on. Even if he had a hard life in Konoha, there were people who show him kindness. Itachi here was one of them. Maybe we aren't so different after all, thought Itachi. Self-sacrifice, a nameless shinobi who protects peace from within its shadow, is the true mark of a real shinobi. That is what I believe a true shinobi is, said Itachi. But what about you? If you're missing Nin, then what did you do to end here? Said Naruto, still trying to understand why a shinobi from Konoha, like Itachi, who helped him, became missing Nin. Tell me, Itachi began slowly. Did you never wonder why my brother was suddenly alone, in spite of the fact that he was part of a huge clan? Brother? Only now Naruto started to realize why Itachi mentioned his brother and Sasuke, and why he looks like Sasuke. They were brothers. I did, but nobody told me, said Naruto. You heard right, Uzumaki-kun. It was I who killed them. Naruto was shocked. This person had killed his entire clan? But why would you do this? I can tell you the real reason, but if you can't keep a secret, I will kill you. He bent his head towards the boy in a questioning gesture, activating his Sharingan. Do you understand? He asked. Naruto nodded. I already said I want to help people, and if I can't help you, then how can I help others? He said. Very well, Naruto-kun. I guess if we're to know each other better, I should call you by your first name. Itachi said. He always used the honorifics kun or san for possible ally. The night the Kyuubi attacked Konoha, Itachi began, it not only changed your future, but also the future of the Uchiha clan. What I did was to save the clan from civil war and war from other villages. Naruto raises an eyebrow, but didn't say a word. I killed the Uchiha clan because they had plans to revolt against Konoha, and if they did that, then a civil war would have break out, and in that confusion, Konoha would be attacked by other villages due to the perceived weakness of Konoha already being there. The idea of war already contradicts my ideals, and this I couldn't allow to happen. I think I understand, but what are your ideals? Asked Naruto. When I was young, from the day my father took me to the battlefield, I trained non-stop. It was a long year before the start of the academy. Why, you wonder? To get rid the world of fighting. I refuse to accept my father's words that a ninja was someone who lived in the mystic of killing and existed for nothing else. There has to be more from life than this. The ninja arts and usage of chakra are more than only for fighting. I'm sure they are not only for war. There has to be more. I'm sure there is a greater purpose, a greater good. Itachi explained, and the blonde nodding his head in agreement. Naruto agreed to this. There had to be more, but what exactly? Maybe one day he could find the answer. If you have greatest strength, you can step in between people fighting and you can stop them. If you're a powerful ninja, more powerful than any of the ninja at war, if no ninja, however skills, stood a chance against you, then everyone would have to listen to you. Everyone will have to obey you and your commands. Itachi wanted to be that type of ninja. He believed he was more powerful and more capable than anyone else. Naruto nods, having aspirations that Itachi seemed unreasonable and unattainable to most people, but he understands. But how do you plan to do that non-violent world by killing people? The only way that true peace can be attained is through strength, Naruto-kun. Strength so great and so overwhelming that no one in village, no amount of power can take on the likes of me. That way no one would dare oppose me and my ideals. When I'm alive, there would be no point to being any shinobi. At least that's what I believed back then. I was a little naive, but what I can tell you is that you do need power, but that is not the only thing you need. Even if power was all you needed, then what happens when you die? That force would be gone, and there would be no one else, someone else to take your place. And after you're gone, I think more conflict and war will be created, Naruto said. But to his surprise, Itachi nods, as he can't be more impressed by how depth Naruto, thinking and calm-mindedness he is right now. You are right, Naruto-kun. When I die, there would have to be someone who can fill the void of my absence, said Itachi, then changed the topic to something else. I have an offer for you. I'd like to train you. I want you to be able to defend yourself. If you want to spend your life out here, that is your choice. But I will be doing both Konoha and you a disservice if I allowed those who would do you harm to make the choice for you. He was intensely loyal to the village as a whole. If he could help Konoha and Naruto to make choices about his own life, he felt it was his duty as a loyal Konoha shinobi to try. You won't make me go back? Naruto asked. Itachi could see his indecision and quickly replied, No, it is your choice whether or not you want to live in Konoha or stay out here. Will you teach me to do the red eyes? Naruto asked as Itachi chuckled slightly at that, shaking his head. The red eyes are the Sharingan, and you have to be born with them, something only my family can do. Only you can do this. Itachi nodded. Even if you trained your entire life, you wouldn't be able to make them. They're a part of me, like your arms and legs. Some people are born with blonde hair or black. You were born with a lot of chakra, I think because of your clan, just as I was born with a Sharingan. Naruto nodded at that. It made sense. After all, some people were taller than others or had different colored skin. Why not something like this? Yes. Wait a minute. I have a clan, he asked, almost forgetting anything else. You see, the Uzumaki clan was a clan from the land of whirlpools. They were once heralded as the greatest Fuinjutsu masters in the world. Now Naruto was staring at him. He wanted to know more. What happened to them? He asked, unsure why Itachi stopped. They were unanimously feared by every other village for their Fuinjutsu. Why? Because people fear what they can't understand. That's why enemy villages put aside their differences in order to invade and lay waste to the Uzumaki clan, Yuzushiogakure. But I still don't understand what could the Fuinjutsu be so feared for. It's not just the Fuinjutsu. I don't know the full story. According to legends, half of the villages we attacked were wiped out in the battle, and the other half suffered countless casualties, including their small army of summoning animals. What are those, and what is Fuinjutsu? Fuinjutsu is a type of jutsu that seal objects, living beings, chakra, along with a wide variety of other things within another object. Fuinjutsu can also be used to restrict movement or unseal objects either from within something or someone. Cool. So this is my clan's specialty, asked Naruto. Itachi replied, carefully choosing his words. Naruto-kun, Uzumaki clan died in the war. That means your clan doesn't exist anymore. He watched for a response and saw tears forming at the corner of the blonde's eyes. Naruto then gave him a genuine smile. I'm not sad. I'm so happy that I can't stop crying. He wiped his eyes, then grinned. I have a clan. I know what you said, but I have a clan. They may be dead and gone, but I have a clan. Fresh tears flew down his face as he sniffed. Itachi understood. Naruto kept going. All my life, I have been alone. No one knew who I was. All Hokage Jiji told me was that my name was Uzumaki Naruto. He didn't tell me anything about my parents except that they were dead, that they died on the day of Kyuubi's attack. I always wondered about my family, but I never knew anything about them. But now, even if they are dead, I know that they were my family. Naruto wiped his tears. I have a clan. I'm not alone anymore. I am Naruto of the Uzumaki clan. He looked up at Itachi. To me, it is enough, you know more? Can you tell me more, please? All else I know is that the Uzushiogakure fell during the Second Shinobi War. The land of whirlpools was left ravaged and bereft of all leadership in shinobi. Eventually, the island nation began to recuperate as victims of war sought out a land that would keep them away from conflict. Without the Uzumaki clan, the land of whirlpools held little value and was far enough out of the way that there was no reason for shinobi of other villages to be there. As the settlers came and built atop the ruins of the village, the island was renamed the Land of Waves to signify its new beginnings. Cool. I would still like to go and see the place, said Naruto, wanting to see where his ancestors lived. And maybe he could hide there for a while. At the moment, we are between the Land of Rivers and the Land of Fire, and the Land of Waves is on the other side of the Land of Fire. And from there, you will either need a boat or you'll have to walk all the way on water until you get to the island. Explained Itachi. Oh, I will go there on future, but I don't think I'm ready yet, said Naruto, as what Itachi pointed out about him was true. Until now, he was lucky, and he didn't want to be running into more shinobi from Konoha. Naruto wanted to be better, to change into what he called a true shinobi, someone who was free and could take his own decisions. So, about the training, he asked, hoping Itachi didn't forget about it. I will train you, but you have much to learn. You must mature. You're no longer a kid. Nothing ever stays the same. Eventually, you need to start a change. Naruto nodded. Then Kisame finally returned. Okay, we won't have to worry about food for a while, he said. But where is the food? Asked Naruto, not seeing any food. I sealed it into some scrolls. He replayed. Sealed? Asked Naruto. He meant few Jutsu, said Itachi, and Naruto nodded. Kisame decided to go and get more food, but in reality, he wanted to leave Naruto and Itachi alone and see how they got along. And it seems they made progresses. So other than Kagabunshin no Jutsu, what else you can do, Naruto-kun? Asked Itachi. Naruto put a hand behind his head and looked slightly embarrassed. Well, I know a bit of the taijutsu they taught in academy, he said as he made 2 clones which departed from the 3 of them and started a fight. Seeing the clones, Naruto finally remembered something. Ah, my gears, I almost forgot about them, he said as he remembered about his backpack and scroll. Don't leave without me, he yelled as he ran to find his belongings. Itachi and Kisame continued to watch the 2 clones sparring. Bad. It looks like he learned most of his taijutsu on his own, and what little was taught is obviously taught wrong. I have to start all over with him and have to make him and his body forget what the academy learned him, said Itachi. So, Kisame grinned as he looked at Itachi. Got you too, huh? You were right. Naruto-kun is very similar to us. He has an interesting, Itachi searched for an appropriate word, perspective on life. Kisame nodded. Yeah, I felt that too. The kid is interesting, all right. After some minutes, they turned their attention back to Naruto, who returned with a backpack and a giant scroll. I will teach you my own style. The academy teaches nothing but the basics, said Itachi. This will be interesting to see how long the kid will last, thought Kisame. Chapter 5. The Path to Change. So, brat, what with that scroll of yours? Asked Kisame as the 3 of them began to travel to a new place. Naruto thought for some seconds, then replayed. Well, I stole it from that teacher. It has some jutsu I want to learn. I was going to leave the village that night, so I thought I have nothing to lose. So I took it with me. Itachi did notice there was more to Naruto's story, but for a moment, this was not the place to talk about. Okay then, said Kisame. He was indeed curious as to what could be there, but maybe it would be better for the boy to learn and show him when they fought in a fight. He wanted to give him an advantage. He always liked to fight and to have some competition. But what do you mean back then about my clones? Naruto asked Kisame. I did have some strategy when we fought. You need to learn to think for yourself, kid, Kisame said, but Naruto didn't seem to fully understand. What he meant is that you show signs of being an excellent fighter, but you lack the ability to think things through. Now tell me, what could you and 3 clones accomplish together in combat that you couldn't by yourself? Itachi asked. Easy. We could attack from all sides at the same time. The enemy will never see it coming. Naruto nodded proudly to himself. This is what he meant. Itachi's words interrupted Naruto's self-appreciation. You only think of the most obvious things. You don't look underneath the underneath. Your clones could do so much more. If you were in the air and Kunai were flying at you, and with no other way to dodge, a clone could grab you and throw you out of the way. You could also use your clones to get higher by jumping off of them. This would give your opponent an unexpected aerial attack. You could have clones brace you from a fall or intercept a hit meant for you. The options with your clones are limitless. But this, of course, depends on you, he explained. Naruto fell stupid. How could there have been so many things, and yet he could only come up with one? Itachi seemed to pick up on what Naruto was thinking. You will eventually get better as the time passes. Now tell me, do you want to change into a better shinobi? He asked the blonde. Even if he wanted Naruto to act and think in a certain way, it didn't give him permission to force him to do so. Of course, Ido, said Naruto with a little hesitation. You cannot change if you fear and doubt yourself. You must trust yourself if you truly want to change, Itachi said. Naruto repeated the words over and over again in his mind as he slowly grasped at what Itachi was trying to say. I don't fear myself, I just fear. Well, it's not really fear, I mean. Naruto, eyes are going to his stomach where the QB was sealed. Kisame didn't seem to understood, but Itachi did. I want to change. What do I have to do? Naruto said now with full confidence in his voice. You must train and last as long as you possibly can. Then and only then will you begin to move along the path to self-improvement. How would this help me? By allowing you to realize that you must not fear, you must not panic, but focus on the task at hand. By realizing these truths, you will come to understand yourself and be ready to be a shinobi. You must remember to stay calm and determined. I will try. Do not try, do. Make it happen. Naruto nodded. He didn't need to say what he was going to do unless he was asked directly. He just needed to do it. What's your elemental affinity, kid? Kisame asked. Naruto just looked confused as he repeated, Elemental affinity? What's that? Kisame sighed and explained, there are the 5 elemental chakra natures, which are the foundation of all elemental ninjutsu. They are so vital to the shinobi lifestyle that each of the 5 great shinobi countries is named after one of the 5. Each element is naturally weaker than and stronger than another, and elemental affinity means which element you can use best. Many higher-level shinobi can use more than one type of elemental jutsu. They manage that after lots of practice, but their main element, called their affinity, is usually only one. They practice and develop other affinities later in life. Naruto nodded as he finally understood. How do I know what is my element? Asked Naruto, getting very interested in elemental affinities. He had already read in a book about them, but only the name was mentioned. There is a little test for that. Kisame grinned, but Naruto gulped. He had never been good at tests. Is the affinity decided by the marks? If I fail the test, I don't get any affinity. Naruto asked. Kisame stopped walking, followed then by Itachi. Kisame stood still for a moment. Then he began to laugh. He laughed for a few minutes. Naruto and Itachi waited as Kisame finally stopped, wiping tears from his eyes. You really are one interesting kid. He straightened as he shook his head. The test isn't a paper-pencil test, although a paper is involved. What do I have to do? Asked Naruto. You just have to mold your chakra and focus it on the paper. One's affinity can be determined using pieces of paper made from a special type of tree that is grown and fed with chakra, explained Itachi. And when this so-called Chakura Kenoshi is exposed to even the slightest hint of chakra, it reacts according to the chakra's latent element. Added Kisame. Then he took out a scroll from an inside pocket of his cloak. He opened it and summoned more scrolls from inside. Naruto glanced at them as curiosity got the better of him. Wow, so many things. I really have to learn how to do this, he thought. Kisame stood up and turned to the Naruto. He unwrapped the packet and took out a few old-looking papers from it. Naruto noticed happily that they weren't big enough to write on. He hadn't been fully convinced that he wouldn't have to write a test. Kisame held out one to Naruto. Here, kid, try it. Naruto accepted the paper, then looked at the paper as he focused chakra on it. The paper split into two. Naruto dropped in surprise. He turned to Kisame and Itachi. Kisame looked at the pieces of the paper Naruto had dropped. He picked them up. He shook the paper pieces, happens for the wind type. Naruto looked at the paper in Kisame's hands and grinned. That means dash. Yeah, kid, it means you were a wind type. Kisame finished for the boy. Kisame was sure Itachi had copied a few with the Sharingan. Wind chakra is very rare. It is also very dangerous in a fight, said Itachi. Naruto became excited. This is so cool. The three of them continued their road, changing more words. They have told him they were part of an organization and that they make missions for money. Naruto didn't ask more on the subject, but this made him wonder when he will be alone again, what job could he find to make money? And who would hire a kid? Being a missing nin was truly hard. After a long travel, they have found a cave as the night was coming. Kisame left to relieve himself, leaving both Naruto and Itachi into a cave. I wanted to ask you how to handle all of this, Naruto said, hoping Itachi understand what he meant. He remembered the time Itachi had told him about his reasons for serving the village, about his philosophy, about the duty of a shinobi. Itachi saw the connections forming. Time doesn't heal anything. It just teaches us how to live with pain. He said, "Why did you have to choose this?" asked Naruto. "This is not right, Dash," he said, but Itachi cut him off. "It's what I chose. My sacrifice is a small one in the grand scheme of things. If this keeps the village safe, then I'll gladly pay it." Naruto looked at him, not sure what to say. He was wondering if the ends justifies the means. Sometimes we have to do what's right, even if it hurts the ones closest to us. Sometimes we have to follow orders that we hate in order to protect what we love. Itachi spoke quietly as Naruto nodded. "But why are you so different when you're—" Naruto tried to find a word how to describe, but he couldn't. Itachi understood what he meant and said, "Is a persona I fabricated." "A persona?" asked Naruto. "Yes. Sometime on missions, you have to be someone you are not in order to complete the mission." "I still don't get it." "Naruto-kun, do you know why Ambu are so feared?" "Because they are strong." Naruto guessed. Itachi shook his head. "Not completely, Naruto-kun. It is because the Ambu do not make a single wasted movement. In missions, they sometimes have to be thinking like a machine. They will treat a genin the same way they treat a S-rank enemy. They make no assumptions. Every move made is made with the mission objectives in mind. Even if they know for a fact that their opponent is weaker than them, they allow no decrease in their own attacks or make the mistake of not taking a fight seriously. Those who do not last very long." Naruto was surprised, but he understood. Another factor is their reputation. He looked down to see Naruto hanging onto every word. Their reputation precedes them everywhere they go. In a battle, the opponent tends to get intimidated and make mistakes. "Wow," Naruto muttered. Itachi smiled. "Remember, Naruto-kun, it is always better to be safe rather than sorry. When in battle, always rely on the current situation. Do not allow yourself to be blinded by what you believe to be the truth. That is why Ambu are so feared. For them, there is no past, there is no future. There is only the mission." "But then, shouldn't we all do that?" Naruto asked, confused. Itachi merely smiled. "Living on the edge like that for long periods of time tends to be unhealthy, Naruto-kun. Also, it dehumanizes." Naruto looked confused. "It makes you care less and less even about the things you should. For example, helping someone in need. With that particular mindset, You decide that the effort of helping the person is not beneficial to you, and hence, you do not. Understand. Naruto nodded, disgusted. I would never do that. I'll help everyone. The persona I fabricate helps me in what I want to accomplish. Sometimes in missions, you will have to create a persona like an umbu if you want to accomplish that mission. Naruto wondered if to make a persona could help him as well. Maybe he could create a persona to something to help him deal with his past, or start to wear a mask could help as well, he thought. But for now, he should ask more. But if I do this, does this mean I always have to be that persona? Naruto asked, unsure of what he will do. No, but perhaps it's impossible to wear an identity without becoming what you pretend to be. Naruto nodded. He could do this, but he should never forget who he is. Now tell me what is actually inside that scroll, said Itachi as Naruto panicked. That teacher, he tricked me to steal it. And in that scroll, there are more easy jutsu for me to learn. I know they may be forbidden jutsu, but I will be careful when learning them. You do know even me, or the Hokage, will be forced to kill you if you let that scroll to fall into the hands of anyone else other than you. And not to mention that stealing is a crime itself. I promise after I learn more jutsu, I will find a way to return it to Hokage Gigi. How exactly are you going to do that? If I won't be able to, I'll give it to you when I'm done learning, I promise, please. Begged Naruto, hoping Itachi will let him continue to learn from the scroll. If I'm out here, I need to be able to protect myself. Right? Fine. I will teach you how to seal it into a smaller scroll. Does that mean you will teach me Fuinjutsu? Asked Naruto, excited to learn his clan's speciality. I will teach you the basics of sealing jutsu. Naruto nodded. But this also made him wonder something else. This scroll contains the secrets of the Kages of the greatest shinobi nation ever, right? If he could learn the jutsu inside this scroll, this meant he was going to surpass them all. This could be something he wanted to accomplish in his life. Another goal that he could achieve it. Naruto didn't bother looking at the section that contained the forbidden seals for a moment, not knowing the tiniest bit about sealing. But after he learns about sealing, he might give a look. Next day, since Naruto accepted to be trained by Itachi, he knew the days were no longer going to be the same. But he didn't expect to be wake up at command. And when he said 5 more minutes, Kisame used a water jutsu on him, and the water was cold. It will take some time, but at least this way maybe he will be a morning person. Itachi knew the boy needed discipline. Okay, so what jutsu can I learn? Asked Naruto as they had finished eating and he was ready to start his training. How is your chakra control? Asked Itachi. Could I guess? Said Naruto. It was better than it used to be. Then that is what you should do for now. What but why? I've already spent many days with chakra control, and other than walking on water or 3, I don't have what else to use it on. Itachi didn't answer and just walked over to a giant rock close to them. Naruto's eyes were on Itachi, who pushed his fist high, and then a chakra pervaded his arm and clad it in a pale blue blaze. Itachi's fist hit the rock, and the rock was smashed, making a high-pitched sound. Naruto had his jaw dropped after he had seen this. Shinobi's taijutsu weren't physical strength, but if you were able to use chakra, you'd be able to smash even a huge rock. As you probably know, chakra can be used not only to walk on water or trees. There's more you can do as long as you can control it. Only once you've mastered the very basics of chakra and you're able to perform them under any circumstance, the advanced techniques will make sense. Explained Itachi. I don't think we will have to worry about that, said Naruto as he made 25 clones who started training in chakra control. Only 25 of my clones can mold chakra, and when they dispel, I get the training they did. He explained. It was not bad, at least now Itachi could focus on learning him something else. It took some hours, but Naruto started to get the hand on learning a better taijutsu. Itachi had just finished a small spar with Naruto. He stood and analyzed the blonde's weaknesses. Even if the blonde could use a large number of clones, his technique was very rough. While the numbers might work against Genin-level ninja, any other ninja with a decent taijutsu or ninjutsu could manage to fight back. That's how the days went on. They spent some hours in the morning training a little on taijutsu, and then continue their travel to an unknown location to Naruto. In these days, Naruto started to get a hand on taijutsu. He knew he needed to advance in all forms of combat if he ever wanted to become truly great. He was not good with Jinjutsu, but at least with the training he had, he could at least dispel it. After these days, they finally got to the destination. Here you can train without getting unwanted attention, brat, said Kisame. What is this place? Naruto asked Itachi and Kisame. Uchiha Clan Hideout, replayed Itachi. The Uchiha Hideout is a former base of the Uchiha clan. It is built into a terraced mountain with vast forestry growing on each level. Two towers were also built on either side of the mountain, connecting directly to it. Inside, there was at least one vast meeting hall, which had the symbol of the Uchiha framing the doorway on either side. At the front of the room, elevated above the rest of the room by a platform, was a throne of sorts, a small table beside it. The day seems to go fine so far. Naruto Taijutsu was getting better. His clones helped a lot at improving his chakra control, and he was finally able to destroy a giant rock with his punch. He had even learned the basics of sealing jutsu, and could seal gears for now, including the giant scroll. Normally, Naruto would be thinking right now at how much ramen and food he could store in those sealing scrolls he had. But right now, after another day of training, Naruto was never sure if he admired or hated both Itachi and Kisame. He could never pinpoint exactly what made him feel that Itachi and Kisame took a perverse pleasure in running him into the ground, but he was completely convinced that it was true. Despite that, he also had to admit that he felt better than he ever had in life. He had grown thorough pain. It hurt a lot, but after he got used, he became better. He was making progress. Itachi and Kisame pushed him harder than he'd ever worked in his entire life. But Naruto couldn't help but admit that he was starting to see why Itachi and Kisame trained in the way they did. It worked. He was becoming stronger, faster, and he was feeling better. Itachi took notice that Naruto was talented as he learned things on his own when he was young. Even so, talent is no excuse for intellectual laziness, especially from someone as talented as the boy. That's why he made sure to push him more every time he complained or was making excuses. Itachi deliberately didn't praise him. When people thought they were special, they got lazy. Thinking that what you could do was only natural meant knowing your own insufficiencies. You still couldn't do everything, so you weren't particularly admiring of what you could already do. So you didn't think you were special. People who thought like this would always keep pushing ahead. Itachi felt a nice feeling in his heart. Fate had given him a chance to contribute towards the building of the next generation. He had never thought he would ever teach after he had escaped from Konoha. Training Naruto did bring back memories of when he trained Sasuke. Back then, he felt like he had to live up to Sasuke's expectations. He felt like he wanted to be the self who would not shame Sasuke. These feelings become the power to propel himself forward. Sasuke always gave him a motivation that he certainly couldn't have managed alone. He had nothing but gratitude for his brother. Abruptly, he remembered what Shui had once said: "You've never blamed your fate on your clan or given up. No one should blame their fate on anyone and continue to move on." Next day, "I think you're ready now to learn some jutsu." "Cool," said Naruto. "Let's see what you have in that scroll," said Itachi. Kisame had left for a while, so now he could watch what jutsu were contained in that scroll. "Well, there's one I had in mind," said Naruto, showing Itachi the jutsu. Bunshin Daibakaha was a forbidden jutsu because it required high chakra reserves, at least Jonin level, to use, and required the user to master the Kage Bunshin beforehand. Bunshin Daibakaha let the user to create suicide bomber clones, which can be detonated by the user or clone itself. It was considered nearly undetectable for non-sensors and non-dijitsu users. Interesting choice. Just keep in mind that the chakra, which would normally return to you after the clone, is dispelled, and the memory of the clone will not return to you. Seeing Naruto's confused face, he tried to explain simpler. This technique utilizes the volatility of chakra. Usually, the chakra we use in our ninjutsu is molded in a half-and-half ratio of physical energy and spiritual energy. "Do you understand?" He glanced at the boy. Naruto nodded. "Yeah, I read this in one book, or at least his clones did." Itachi began again. Do you know why? Naruto tried to remember for a few moments before shaking his head. Physical energy is pure, unadulterated energy. Individually, it needs to burn up the instant it is created. Too much of it cannot be created and stored without spiritual energy. That is why we can lift a 100-pound stone 10 times, but can't lift a 1,000-pound stone one time, even though the work done is same. Naruto nodded. Itachi glanced down and was surprised to see that Naruto was jotting down notes in a small notebook. He hadn't thought Naruto to be a note-making kind of person. Whatever, Itachi didn't mind as long as Naruto understood. Spiritual energy, on the other hand, Itachi continued when Naruto looked up for more, is control. So the better your control of spiritual energy, the better is the jutsu? Itachi nodded. Yes, that is because the spiritual energy is the control factor of the chakra. Itachi made a Kage Bunshin that walked a small distance away. When you and I make clones, Naruto-kun, we make them entirely of chakra. Naruto nodded as Itachi explained. Currently, the clone has a balance of both energies. But if you manage to separate the spiritual energy from the mix, while compressing the complementary physical energy, you can hold it for some time. Then just release it all at once. Itachi pointed at his clone who nodded and exploded. You can do this too. Naruto was shocked. Itachi already know this forbidden jutsu. It had started to make sense to Naruto why he explained it so well. Itachi just walked up to the place where the clone had exploded. When you release the physical energy suddenly, the chakra explodes. Then he looked at Naruto warningly. This is why, Naruto-kun, you must never try to do it in your real body. He explained, you may accidentally blow your body up. While you won't blow like a clone as your body isn't totally made of chakra, your internal organs will be blasted apart, and you'll die nonetheless. Naruto gulped as he imagined himself blown up on the ground with his insides fried. He shuddered at the image. He hastily promised himself to never try the technique on his body. Night. Kisame was going through his own sword techniques when he sensed Itachi approaching. Naruto was slung over Itachi's shoulder. Kisame raised an eyebrow at Itachi. Itachi decided that it would be best to avoid any misconceptions, chakra exhaustion. He explained before Kisame reached the wrong conclusion. What were you doing, Itachi-san? He asked. I've never seen the brat run out of chakra before. Itachi nodded. Usually he wouldn't have, but I learned him the Bunshin Daibaka. He said. So how did it go? Naruto-kun used at least a few dozens clones in his training. He glanced at the boy, still a little surprised himself. He had known that Naruto had huge reserves, but to watch it in action was really something else. Kisame smirked. Yeah, us large chakra holders do have an advantage over the others. Before I can show him wind jutsu, he needs to be able to draw wind nature chakra freely. Venespa. When Naruto had wake up this morning, he noticed he was alone, so he run to the entrance. As he walked out, he met Kisame, but he also noticed some changes in the landscape outside. What happened here? He asked, surprised. Oh, nothing. I and Itachi-san had a little friendly spar last night, said Kisame. Friendly? Asked Naruto, still unsure if that was a friendly fight as he continued to examine the landscape. Yup, friendly. Kisame slapped him on the back. Okay, maybe we exaggerated a little. You know, sometimes we are very competitive. Naruto signed as he glared at the surroundings again. So, he asked, what are we doing today, Shark-asan? Naruto joked, but a vein appeared on Kisame's forehead. How come you refer to Itachi-san with such respect and call me with so much rudeness? He asked the blonde. Naruto shrugged. He taught me jutsu. When you teach me jutsu, I'll call you even sensei. Kisame snorted. It's not my fault you can't use water-type jutsu. If you could, I could have taught you some jutsu. And you don't seem to be the type for kenjutsu. Kenjutsu. Naruto wondered for a while. He was not the type to use swords, but he did want to be a great shinobi, and for this he needed to learn about every type of fighting. At least a little. Can you teach me kenjutsu? He asked. Kisame grinned at him. I guess I could show you something, but you don't have a sword. Oh. That true, he didn't have one, and he was sure no one will even sell him one. He was just a kid after all. Before you start learning something new, you should at least finish with what you started learning," said Itachi, who had overheard their conversation. I know, but I just wish at least I had a try with a sword," said Naruto. He didn't mean waiting, but he wanted to see how it was like to use a sword. Itachi didn't say anything and just took out a scroll from his cloak. Then, to Naruto's surprise, Itachi summoned a katana. This katana used to be Itachi's Umbu blade. He didn't use it since that night. Itachi wouldn't have ever used that sword again, but from his talk with Naruto, he did thought for a while. Maybe at least the blade deserved to be redeemed. Naruto could only watch amazed when Itachi offered him the sword. "Well, who know you had that to you?" said Kisame. "Let's see what you can do, Naruto-kun," said Itachi. Naruto nodded and started to experiment with the sword. Little did Naruto know, Itachi had just gave him the Uchiha clan Slayer 9000. Yeah, Naruto was not ready to use a sword until he was going to be older and more disciplined. "I don't think I was that bad," said Naruto. "Uzumaki-kun, why would you think using my sword with Shuriken Kagebunshin no Jutsu was a good idea?" Itachi asked. Naruto figures out he was a little angry from the way he said his name. "Well, I thought that it will work better then with shurikens," said Naruto innocently. It didn't. So Naruto come to the conclusion to work on what he was better until he would touch a sword ever again. So he returned to his regular training. Next day, when Naruto wake up this morning, he took notice Kisame and Itachi were meditating or something like that, but it didn't last long as they opened their eyes. "Morning," said Naruto with a smile, ready to start another day, as it seemed since he got used to wake up early, he had more energy in every morning. There was a little silence for some seconds until Itachi chose to break the ice. "I and Kisame have to leave now," he said, then watched as the expression on Naruto's face traveled from curiosity to sadness. "What? Why?" he asked. Itachi reached out and patted his head. "We have a mission." Naruto's mouth formed an O. Then he smiled. "So, it's not like we're not going to meet again then?" His eyes making inverted us as he grinned wide. Once again, Itachi wondered at Naruto's optimism and positive outlook on life. "Of course, Naruto." He patted the blonde's head again. "Don't forget, it doesn't matter how many jutsu you know, and to know how to use the ones you have at full potential. And always remember, battles are fought from here." He rested his fingers on Naruto's chest over the blonde's heart. "But are won from here." He shifted his hand to tap Naruto's temple. Naruto nodded, understanding. "I wrote some notes on your notebook on what you should work on until we meet again." "But how long will you two be gone? And what should I do until we meet again?" "It will be a long mission, so we can't say for sure. You can stay here if you want, or you can go on your own journey when you are ready. Just don't forget what you learn, and don't let your emotion control your actions." Naruto nodded, then said, "I think I will stay here some days, and then I think I know a place I want to visit." "Good luck, brat. You will need it," said Kisame. Itachi and Kisame turned and began their own journey. Chapter 6. The Paths We Take. Since Itachi and Kisame left, Naruto didn't train until he was completely exhausted, but he still makes some workout in the morning. In the rest of the day, he was focused on learning how to infuse his chakra with wind release. Itachi left him some notes on how to do it. His clones help a lot to speed the process, but even so, Naruto knew he needed to work as well if he wanted results. Now being alone, Naruto decided to give a look at what sealing jutsu were in this scroll, and it did surprise him what he found. Shiki Fujin, Dead Demon Consuming Seal. Shiki Fujin is a sealing technique developed by the Uzumaki clan to call upon the power of the Shinigami. After the hand seals are performed, the user's soul is partly separated from their body and suspended behind them. Behind their soul appears the Shinigami, which restrains their soul with its hair. Only the summoner is able to see the Shinigami at this point. After a few moments, the Shinigami wraps its left arm with prayer beads and chants unintelligibly until a cursed seal appears on its arm. It then drives its arm into the summoner's soul, thus allowing the summoner to call upon the Shinigami to seal a target. The Shinigami's arm emerges from the summoner's body and grasps the target's soul. Targets are able to see the Shinigami so long as it's in contact with their soul. Souls can only be freed from the Shinigami's stomach by using dead demon-consuming seal. Release, Shiki Fujin, Kai. To use, an individual wears the Shinigami mask, causing them to become possessed by the Shinigami. If the individual wearing the mask and slices open their own stomach, the Shinigami will do the same, and any souls inside they want will be freed. However, the mask doesn't have any properties that will prevent its user from dying of that injury. The masks were made by the Uzumaki clan for Konoha in order for people who don't have enough chakra to be able to use the sealing jutsu without needing to learn the hand seals. Naruto was surprised that there was a jutsu from his clan in this scroll. Sadly, he couldn't use it, but thinking it did made sense why it was not something people should learn. Maybe this was one of the jutsu which made the other nations fear the Uzumaki clan. Naruto continued to lock at others' sealing jutsu. Shisho Fuin. Four-symbol seal. This technique requires a great deal of talent to perform. The user applies the seal's formula to an object or a human's body, sealing a large enemy or an evil spirit within them. If two four-symbol seal are used, a stronger seal is created. This is called the 8 trigrams sealing style. If the four-symbol seals do not completely overlap with each other, this allows the enemy/spirit's chakra to merge with whoever they've been sealed into. The four-symbol seal is based on the Fuin Jutsu of Yuzushiobiku's Uzumaki clan. The four-symbol seal is also left on the stomachs of those who perform the Shiki Fujin. Wow, thought Naruto. This sealing jutsu sounded interesting, but also dark as well. Naruto continued to read the next jutsu. Aken no Finseki. 8 trigrams sealing style. A four-symbol seal is used to seal a large enemy or an evil spirit into a target, such as an object or a human's body. A stronger seal is created if 2 four-symbol seal are used. This is called the 8 trigrams sealing style. If the four-symbol seals do not completely overlap with each other, this allows the enemy/spirit's chakra to merge with whoever they've been sealed into. This seal is intended to encourage tailed beasts to aid the Jinchuriki they've been sealed within, as the more they provide chakra, the weaker the seal becomes, and thus the better their chance of freedom. Naruto froze into place, then quickly raised his shirt, and after focusing some chakra, the seal appeared on his stomach. It was the same seal he saw in the scroll. Jinchuriki, but this means the Kyuubi. He had heard so many stories about him. He killed so many people, possibly even his own parents. Naruto won't deny that he was annoyed that his idol, the Yellow Flash, sealed a demon in him. Why did it have to be him? Not that he would wish this on someone else, but still, why him? This was all Naruto had been wondering since he found out that night. However, now after he found out what seal he had on his stomach, it did make him wonder some things. The Yondaime Hokage gave him this seal. Did he believe? I could control Kyuubi's chakra like it was written in this scroll. Wonder Naruto. Maybe he was already doing this. This was probably why he had so much chakra and could do so many clones. At least some things did started to connect together now. Naruto decided to take a break for now. It was indeed cool, he learned more about his clan, but the sealing jutsu they had were truly dark if he thought what could happen if they fall in the wrong hand. Maybe he should try to find a way to return this scroll where it belonged faster, but for now, maybe he could put one of his clones to copy more jutsu from the scroll into his book. Training here was all good, but Naruto knew that loneliness could mess him up really bad. Maybe it was time to leave this place for a while. He was still thinking how things would be if he just returned in Konoha. Maybe they could be better now that he understood more about himself and the place around him. However, being outside here, surviving, and training, it somehow gave him more of a sense of purpose than he ever had in Konoha, evidenced by the fact that he became more calm, more focused, and he acted less rationally, less stubbornly, and he applied himself in a way he felt it will make a difference. He will not deny that he missed to be just a kid and have fun. However, a sense of purpose on something so big was hard to ignore or let go. He was still not sure he could find anyone to sell him wind jutsu scrolls in any city. The rain. It's gonna rain. Naruto said to himself, looking up at the clouds gathering outside the hideout. He was not the type to like the raining, but in the time he traveled here with Itachi and Kisame, they encountered nights when it was raining. What surprised Naruto was when Itachi just walked outside the cave into the rain and just stood there. Naruto couldn't help but wonder why. Why was he doing that? Did he like the raining? Or was this a way to punish himself? Or was he crying in the rain? Naruto did not know why, but he felt a dark attraction to try this too. Maybe it could help him understood better if he stood in the rain. Amage cure. Rain was something common in this village, but this rain was different from a normal one. Pain turned to look out at the rain that fell on his village with an emotionless face, his purple eyes seeing through the haze left by the eternal rain. Nagato sighed as he canceled his rain jutsu. The jutsu was perfect in detecting spies within the village. He was a very good sensor nonetheless. Even when one could stretch his or her senses over the entire village, it would take complete focus and some serious meditation. As far as his intel told him, there were only two people who were better sensors than him. Well, he also had some ridiculous chakra control. For someone who had so much chakra as him, it was hard to believe that he could manipulate chakra like he does. There were no spies within the village or some unwanted guests. He made sure to deal with any intruder in his village. He did not like it when someone infiltrated his home to gather some intel. The village's security was of high level, and even if someone did sneak inside, he would not take much time to realize that someone was inside. This village was heavily protected. It was the ideal place to keep secrets. He looked at the streets of the village with an expressionless face. Ever since he took over the village, it has been raining peace. He had ensured that everyone in the village was safe and eliminated everyone he considered an enemy. There was no one who he even suspected to be any enemy. That is how he had managed to lead this village and hold on firmly as its leader. From the Third Shinobi World War, he had been the leader of the Amage Cure. He had eliminated Hanzo and everyone who were relatives to him, no matter what age they had. Now, he was known as Pain, and to the villagers of Amage Cure, Pain-sama. He was proud of the fact that many have not seen his face. People have seen Conan's face, but he never exposed himself. His paths were the ones who always got to see the world. And all of this was thanks to him. Madara Uchiha was one who had taught him how to use the true power of the Rinnegan. And like him, Madara had his own way of archiving peace, his own plan. But even with Madara's plan, Nagato chose his own way and philosophy to create true thought the human race. He and Madara believed that the world was in a never-ending cycle of hatred and deaths. Nagato himself believed that the only way to archive true peace was through the experience of war, essentially by knowing pain. Once every village had felt destruction and loss, once every person had felt pain, they would cease to fight each other, thus creating peace. Once everyone had felt the same pain, they will not want to experience it again. They will all understand what pain feels like. The lives that were going to be lost were for a greater good, because in the end, more people would end up surviving as a result of him ending all wars. Instead of minimize the pain, he will maximize it to the highest quality, that being survival. And if even then they will not stop, then Madara's plan will make peace to be permanently. Nagato of the Uzumaki clan will bring peace to this war-torn world and make them all feel pain. Naruto Uzumaki was like a bright, sunshiny day, but now he was more like a dark, rainy day. He was not sure if he liked the change, but for now, it made him smile. He wanted and needed a change for his own good and to make sure he survived in this shinobi world. Maybe like Itachi, he belonged to the darkness of the shinobi world. And maybe this was his path now? As he stood in rain, he started to feel like he was home because the rain was with him. It made him felt like home, like he was no longer alone. Every straw made him feel alive. The rain was with him. Smiling hugely, arms outstretched, laughing as the storm raged around him. It should have scared him, but it excited him. No pain existed in this storm. No fear traveled along his spine, and with each flash, no darkness threatened to eat him alive. It was his choice to be in this storm, and he was not alone because the storm was with him. The intense lightning could made anyone scared that the world was coming to an end. However, he didn't feel scared because he was in the storm. Maybe it was finally the time to go and visit the place where his clan lived. But to get there, he will have to go through the land of fire. Maybe if he was lucky, he will not encounter anyone. And if he did encounter enemy, he was going to fight them like a true shinobi. He knew the road was going to be a long one, and he was ready. He was feeling confident enough and didn't feel like want to learn more jutsu from his scroll for the moment. He was more excited to visit the place where his ancestors lived. In another place, an individual was also staying in the rain. This isolated individual tried to find hope while traveling the world alone, but every time he was met with more despair and darkness. The pain of genetic curses, the pain of loneliness, the pain of hatred, and the pain of hopelessness. He experimented them all. His clan sought strength and discarded anyone who could not give them strength. A useless child, a useless dunce who was the worst in his clan and the worst in his class was not worthy of being recognized. He was an orphan, a child soldier, and a black sheep in his clan because he was not really talented. The young boy who was starved for recognition could never receive it. The world was seemingly against him from all sides. And the lack of recognition was perpetuated even more by him. Being an Uchiha, even before the Kyuubi attack, his clan was not in good terms with Konoha. In his death, he was not even recognized by his own clan who looked at him like a tool. Well, there was one person who took notice of him and watched after him and made him believe hope existed. However, she chose to die instead of finding another solution to her problem. Her death was due to how bloodshed the ninja world is. After her death, his dream of becoming Hokage, to keep the Leaf Village safe, evolved into becoming the savior of the world, to keep the entire planet safe. He wanted to prevent all the harm from even happening to anyone else. He was tired of how messed up the ninja world was. All the ninja were fighting and killing each other in the wars their villages caused for resources and more power. Because no one was doing anything to stop all of this, he chose to be the one to change the shinobi system with his very own hand. As he told his old teammate, he was going to crush all those so-called real shinobis. When he confronted his sensei, he even removed his hood to display the hairstyle he had before he was crushed by a rook, but his sensei failed to recognize him. And because he failed to truly recognize him, his sensei claimed like the rest of the world that he did not care who he was. No one truly cared who he was until he put on a mask. His sensei as well chose to die instead of finding another solution to a problem he had to face as Hokage. He could have stayed alive and faced him again, but it seems that in the world they live in, suicide was the only way to escape this hell, along with the problems they had to face in it. However, the masked man was not a coward like his sensei or anyone else. He had a plan, which will save everyone. The Eye of the Moon plan. He constantly doubted the plan throughout his travels and wanted to bail on it as he kept trying to find light in this world, only to be let down each time. The masked man saw how Nagato and his team were betrayed by Hanzo and by the village Nagato once supported. The masked man saw too much darker things in this world that solidified that what he was doing was right. To his surprise, the Eye of the Moon plan gave him more of a sense of purpose than he ever had in Konoha, evidenced by the fact that he became more calm, more focused, and he acted less rationally, less stubbornly, and he applied himself in a way he felt it will make a difference, and he discovered he is in fact incredibly smart. A sense of purpose on something so big was hard to ignore or let go. The masked man, who was regarded as the weakest of his generation, became the most powerful in the end. He was the living proof the losers could become winners. Not that it matters for him anymore. This reign brought him memories of the past, of when a young Itachi asked him for help in slaughtering his clan. The day when he learned how weak were those Uchiha fools that spoke so proudly of their power. As for Nagato, he even started growing fond of him. They have the same goal, even if their way of reaching is different, yet they were probably using each other, ready to backstab the other when the time came. All in the name of peace. At least that what the masked man was expecting to happen. He still had doubts, which he surpassed the entire time. He sometimes wondered what if things had been different. What would have happened if he had returned to the Konoha? It was now too late to change anything, and even if he wanted, he could not because of a seal implanted in his heart. And as he grew mature enough to question the things he had been doing, he come to the conclusion that it was too late now to abandon all of this. The idealistic kid died years ago, buried in the ground. Now, a nameless shinobi who saw the truth of the world will destroy this hell and save everyone from this world that wronged everyone. Obito Uchiha will continue to suffer in this hell, as he sent everyone to heaven. Naruto Uzumaki felt like every day was the same. He would wake up, eat, train, and so on. He was already in the land of fire, and to his luck, he didn't encounter an enemy yet. There was also something else in his mind. The conversation he had with Itachi alone had a more important effect on him than he thought, and it made him question some of the things he had done in the past to a different level, and others' people's point of view about him and how they saw him as well. Thinking now about it, he had never been outright abused, at least not in any traditionally understood sense of the word. He was cared for as an infant, bottle-fed and all that, and as a young child he had a roof over his head and food on the table, thanks to Hokage Gigi. However, he had always been alone, an outcast. That was all it took to mess a kid up, and it was all that had happened to him and some shopkeepers who'd chased him away in the past, worried that his presence would scare away their customers, and the parents who told their kids to stay away from him, and some people muttered darkly when they saw him. While that was certainly enough to make the civilians of Konoha fear a little for their safety, it was more due to the fact that many of them still associated him to some degree with the Kyuubi. Probably from their perspective, it wasn't like they'd done anything wrong. Sure, parents warned their kids to stay away from him, and most others steered clear of him, but that was for their own safety. Naruto knew that sealing Jutsu was a very hard discipline to understand. So as far as they probably knew, the only thing holding the fox back was a bit of ink and chakra. This probably was too good to be true to the civilians who had seen the fox shatter buildings with just its roar. Not that this meant it was intelligent or the right thing of them to do, but fear and memories of loss rarely led people to make rational decisions. So Naruto understood their reasoning, but that still did not change anything. He can't return back and live a happy life there. At least not after he stole this forbidden scroll. Right now, he was again in a forest choosing to train again. 25 of his clones worked again on chakra control, and he was making some body exercise. After that, he was going to continue his road, but training to keep himself in form was also important. As he finished, he had a feeling someone had been watching him for at least some time. "Where are you? Come out," said Naruto, as his clones dispelled, and now he was waiting to see if there was actually someone watching him. His confirmation was true when he heard a laugh behind him in the forest. The laugh was not the regular taunting laugh, but a genuinely amused laugh. Naruto returned saw a silver-haired man approaching him. The silver-haired man had been watching the boy he had come to take back. It had been not easy to track the young boy. It had been pure good luck when he had been passing this forest and saw him from distance. Naruto was analyzing the man. This man had a Hittite wearing the kanji for oil on his forehead. "Who are you? What do you want?" Naruto found himself asking this question. The man seems friendly, but he did not want it a risk. The man smiled at Naruto and said, "I'm impressed, Naruto. You sure are becoming a shinobi." Said Naruto, surprised by the man complimenting him. "So, who are you?" he asked. "Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm known as the Toad Sage," exclaimed the man. "I am Jiraiya." "Ugh, Jiraiya. What can I help you with?" asked Naruto. "You see, I wasn't even sure that you were the ones I was looking for. It may be improbable, but not impossible that there may be another blonde kid with your name who could eat 20 bowls of ramen. What do you want from me?" Naruto asked the man as he entered into a defensive stance. The man in front of him was giving dangerous vibes, and only now, Naruto had figured out the man trick him into confirming his own name when he complimented him early. "Okay then, let's get to business. Your Hokage sent me to find you. There's also another shinobi named Iruka who is locking for you." Naruto was in shock. Iruka-sensei was locking for him. But why? Why would he do this after all the problems he had created him in that night and all those years in academy? And he did made graphite and a lot more pranks, which may have been a little exaggerated sometimes. Naruto knew he was not the bad person. However, he come to the conclusion that maybe he was not the good guy either. Naruto's thoughts were interrupted when Jiraiya continued. Look, I'm here to bring you back. The Hokage will make sure nothing bad will happen to you. You can still become a shinobi if you still want. We can make things work if you come with me home. Naruto froze into place as he tried to find an answer. I don't know. I prefer to be here, outside. Then there. He finally said, if you don't want to stay in the village, I think we could find a solution. You know, there are missions where shinobi have to leave Konoha for a while, and I think you know how to use Hinge no Jutsu to change your appearance in public when we get back, right? Asked the Sannin. If not for the Sannin, being their Naruto would have comically slapped himself for never thinking to use the Jutsu that way. Naruto felt tempered to accept. He will no longer have to worry about a roof, where to sleep, or food. And maybe he could get his hand on some wind Jutsu scrolls. The Sannin extended his hand to Naruto, waiting for the boy to accept it. Will Naruto take that hand? Naruto was prepared to take it, but something was not right. It was just too easy. This is wrong. No, Naruto heard himself saying without thinking. It cannot be that easy. He had already come to the conclusion with the fact that there was no turning back from what he had done. Even if he did go back and he know how to train and become a better shinobi, nothing else will change. As Itachi said, what he desired right now was not what he needed, at least not yet. He had already run one time from the call of the journey of becoming Hokage. He was not going to run again from this new journey he'd thrown himself into. He belonged to the darkness of the shinobi world. Here he was free from all. This was his choice. No, asked Jiraiya. I'm sorry, but I can't go back, said Naruto. Kid, I'm sorry to hear this, but for your own good you can't remain here alone, said Jiraiya, knowing the boy was lucky until now. However, one day, when he encountered a shinobi from other nations, he would not be so lucky. The boy could be captured and sold as a slave. Even worse was he may fall into shinobi hands who might figure out what Naruto was, where they might either kill him or brainwash him into becoming a mindless Jinchuriki. Are you going to fight me? Naruto asked in a calm voice. The man in front of him did not seem to be bad, but anyone who forced him to go back was now an enemy. Kid, we both know how that will end. So, I'm a shinobi too, Naruto said, putting his hand proudly on his chest. I will let this fight decide my fate. If that's what you want and what will take to bring you back, then fine. Naruto jumped back in air and formed a distance between him and the man. As his feet touched the ground, he prepared to attack. Shuriken Kagebunshin no Jutsu, yelled Naruto, sending a few shuriken, which immediately turned into an army of them. He caught the man off guard, or so he thought. Hari Jis. Jiraiya used chakra to harden his hair and shape it into spikes. His hair also grows long enough to wrap around him, serving as armor for the coming shurikens. Naruto was amazed at this, but he didn't waste any time. After Jiraiya's hair returned to normal, he saw the kid was just finishing another hand seal. Kokwanjio no Jutsu, said Naruto as the darkness covered the sky, and Jiraiya found himself in eternal darkness. He knows this jutsu, Jiraiya thought. However, he did not have much time to think, as he could feel more shurikens coming in his direction again. Again, he defended with his hair. The shuriken jutsu Naruto was using against him did bring back memories of when he defeated Tsunade and his sensei, Hiruzen, in his prime, when he used his own shuriken jutsu, that jutsu being called the shuriken whatever jutsu. Good times. Jiraiya could hear steps around him made by many clones. They surrounded him. Naruto had all his clones pull out a kunai from their pockets and got into fighting stances. And without wasting any more time, the clones lunged at the Sannin. Their kunai didn't seem to do any damage to Jiraiya, but then his hair released spikes which destroyed all the clones surrounding him. Naruto saw the Sannin's hair returning to normal again, but this time he was going to try something different. Bunshin defa, whispered Naruto as he made 8 clones, and without an order, they went to attack the Sannin. Doton, Yomi Numa, yelled Jiraiya as he finished some hand seals. Naruto could feel something was happening with the ground, and he jumped into a tree in the last second. Unlike him, his clones were not as lucky, as they were now stuck into mud, as the ground beneath them turned into mud. The 8 clones exploded, destroying and throwing almost all the mud, and Naruto saw the land created, where he can now land. To Naruto's surprise, Jiraiya, covered in hair, was still in the same place. But why? Did he thought he had caught him in the mud, and he was waiting for him to cancel his jutsu? Wait a minute, thought Naruto. Is he wasting my time, knowing that at some point my chakra will be wasted on the Kokwangyo no jutsu? He needed to go down and end this fight fast, thought Naruto, as he jumped down. When he wanted to go for another attack, the man dispelled like a clone into smoke, and Naruto then felt a solid kick in his back, and he was sent flying a tree. Not bad, Naruto, but you will need more. Jiraiya complimented the boy, who was rising up to his feet. You're good, old man. I'll give you that, said Naruto as he prepared. He made and sent 4 clones to attack the Sannin. Jiraiya did hold himself back, as he wanted to know what the kid could do. But now he needed to get serious. Well, not too serious, as he did not want to kill the boy. Naruto knew he needed to act fast, and so he made another set of 8 clones who went after the Sannin. When they got close enough, these clones were going to explode and hopefully defeat the Sannin without putting him in a hospital. But it didn't seem that will happen very soon, as the Sannin sent in fire jutsu and destroyed them all 12. Naruto changed his position as he prepared to take the Sannin off guard, but somehow the Sannin was the one who took him off guard, and he only realized this when he heard behind him, "That was also a clone," said the Sannin as he sent Naruto with a kick flying into a tree. And it hurt more than the first time for Naruto. At least this seems to disable the jutsu, which had already took a lot of chakra from him. The darkness was gone, and the Sannin was slowly coming to him. "As over, Naruto, I won," said Jiraiya as he taking out a chakra-suppressing seal from his pocket. The fight they had could attract unwanted shinobi, and Jiraiya needed to bring the boy to a safe place so they could talk. "This isn't how it was supposed to end," Naruto tried to say, but it sounded more as he yelled, whispering in a deeper voice. He wanted to get up and continue, but he simply didn't know what else he could. He had already tried every jutsu he knew, and yet the man could counter them. Not only that, but the Sannin defeat him with only 2 clones and taijutsu. That is, thought Naruto, he could probably spam the place with his clones, and they could all of them run in different direction, making him hard to be caught by the Sannin. But then he will ignore his ninja word again. It will be like he had just abandoned a ninja mission like a coward. What was he going to do? He was not a liar, and he gave his word that he will let this fight decide his fate. However, now, Naruto learned that a shinobi's life, it's measured by what they've managed to accomplish. And locking back his life has really been full of nothing but failure, unable to become Hokage, unable to become a true shinobi, and unable to accomplish something. Compared to the great and celebrated deeds of the All-Hokage, his actions were insignificant. He was ready to give up this fight, and maybe run if he had the chance. But then he heard his own voice back in his mind, remembering him of something. "So it's not like we're not going to meet again then?" "That right?" He said they would meet again one day. He needed to run and continue to live, but what would Itachi and Kisame say or think of him if they know he just run away like a coward from a fight? "What am I going to do?" wondered Naruto as he managed to rise up, and Sannin was 12 steps away. "You must not fear, you must not panic, but focus on the task at hand. By realizing these truths, you will come to understand yourself and be ready to be a shinobi. You must remember to stay calm and determined." Naruto heard Itachi's voice in his head. He knew what he had to do. So he focused and thought to anything he didn't try until now. That is, there's still 2 things I didn't try yet. Now with the head in the game, Naruto quickly made 4 clones. All of them, including Naruto, charged at the Sannin with Naruto behind them, who was charging his right arm with chakra. This fight was not over yet. Jiraiya was about to take them down quickly and put the seal on Naruto, but as the clones were charging at him at full speed, they poofed into smoke. As the smoke cleaned, Jiraiya saw 4 beautiful naked women, who had their private parts covered by heavier amounts of smoke. Is this the child of the prophecy? Was all Jiraiya could think before they poofed in smoke, and his eyes were met with the original Naruto, who was sending a punch full charged with chakra into his stomach. "This is my Harimu no Jutsu," yelled Naruto. Not even the Hokage stood a chance against this jutsu. Jiraiya flew back from the force of a massive punch until he was slammed into a tree with back-breaking force. Before falling unconscious, the Sannin gave Naruto 2 thumbs up, grinning, and said, "I like you, kid." The Sannin then fell unconscious with a nosebleed, more for being a pervert than the actual hit he got in his stomach. Naruto sighed, disappointed. This guy fell so easily for his jutsu. However, he was not going to complain. He was happy. He had won. He had actually won. This meant he was free to leave. And he should do it before the Sannin woke up. Naruto, no, he might not have as much luck as he did if he was to fight this Jiraiya again. As he was running, Naruto imagined himself taking down Kisame with this jutsu next time they meet. That would be something he will have to try when they meet again. But for now, land of waves, here I come, thought Naruto happily. Chapter 7. Diverging Paths. Naruto has been running for some time, making sure to stop only when needed. The fight with Jiraiya disoriented him, as he was not even sure in what direction he run, and he should really get a map and ask for advice. Therefore, Naruto was currently lost into the forest. This sucks. "Hey, how?" a black bird said while flying over him. Some hours later, "Hey, how?" the same black bird flew over Naruto again. "I'm starting to think that bird is mocking me," Naruto mumbled to himself. He had already eaten all the food he had left. So far, he was full, but tomorrow he should make resources before he continued his traveling to the land of waves. Naruto stopped in his track when he finally saw a city not far away from him. Maybe it will be better if he rests this night in an apartment. At least this way no one will take him by surprise. He still had enough money. But the problem was, who was going to let a kid to borrow a room for a night? "What am I going to do?" wondered Naruto to himself, but then he remembered the advice the old man gave him. "I think you know how to use Hinge no Jutsu to change your appearance in public when we get back, right?" asked the Sannin. With that jutsu, could help with this as long as he was capable to maintain the transformation and the voice as well. Naruto ran forward. Glancing around the place, the blonde wondered where he would be staying. The sun was soon going to fade away. Off away in the distance, there were towering buildings with many windows that were what Naruto guessed to be apartment buildings. Naruto's eyes eventually wandered to where a park was. In the park, there were kids which seems to be the same age as him or with some years younger or older than him. Maybe now he can make some friends. This time, there was no one who knew about the fox sealed inside of him. He can make a lot of friends in the park, and no one will tell their kids to stay away from him. He could talk with kids who were his age. Running at speeds that should be impossible for his age, Naruto disappeared into the playground. "Hey guys!" Naruto shouted, as all kids were surprised to see a boy made his way near them so fast. Everyone had their eyes on the boy. Based on his attire, he did not look like he was from the area. "Who are you?" asked an older boy. "My name is Nar." The Naruto stopped himself from finishing his answer. If he gave away his name, then later someone like Jiraiya or someone else could track him from this place. He was not supposed to say his name, but these were just kids. "My name is Naruto, and I want to play with you guys," he said with excitement. A younger girl smiled, curious about the boy, but the rest did not share the same feelings as her. They could see he was some sort of shinobi in training by the gears he was wearing. Most of them were jealous, but did not want to admit it. "Naruto," another boy scoffed. What kind of parents would name their kids after food? Naruto felt his smile vanish at these words. "And look at his face. Did you draw those whiskers on yourself, or what?" Another older girl laughed as she pointed at the boy. "What a weirdo." "They aren't drawn on. They're real," Naruto said with a frown. All the kids blinked at this. "Yep, he's definitely a weirdo," a girl mused. "Or just a loser." "I'm not a loser," Naruto defended himself, losing his cool. "Loser, loser, loser," all the kids except the youngest girl chanted tauntingly, though she still placed a hand over her mouth, trying not to giggle. "I said I'm not a loser," Naruto yelled in annoyance. "Look at this loser. What kind of weirdo wears orange clothes?" "Huh, his face is going red. What? Are you getting embarrassed?" The kids continued to make fun of him while he stood there fuming. What was wrong with these people? He only asked if they wanted to play with him. Why were they being so mean? They didn't even know about what the fox. It seems that not everyone was very kind in these places, in this world. Why wouldn't they want to play with him? Kids could be so cruel these days. At first, he thought that this was only happening in Konoha, but it seems that was not the case. All he wanted was to play with them. Was it really too much to ask? Naruto could feel his idealism slowly starting to crumble as he locked to the ground. "Leave us alone, loser," said one of the kids who scoffed before walking away. "Come on, guys, let's go somewhere else." The other kids looked at one another before following their leader. After a few stuck their tongues out at Naruto, who continued to lock at the ground. The last to follow the kids was the little girl who gave Naruto a sad and apologetic lock before following them. However, Naruto didn't seem to notice it. "Hey, how?" The same bird from this day flew over Naruto again. Yep, that bird was definitely mocking him. The sun was going down, so Naruto decided to return and find a place to stay for this night. When he was sad, he occasionally had Iruka-sensei to take him to ramen, or even the sometimes when Hokage Jiji took him on the roof of the Hokage office and they watched the sun fade away. It's true, they weren't always there for him, but they did care. He could go for some ramen, but he did not feel like it will help at all. Tucci and Ayam were not there, so he can share his day with them. As, now that he was sad, there was no one there for him, no one to save him and take some of the sadness away. Maybe this is what it's like to belong in the darkness of the shinobi world. That was where his path lies, and that is where he must walk now. Maybe I'm meant to be alone, Naruto thought to himself. Using Hinge no Jutsu to transform into a man, he paid a room for the night, and here he was now standing in this room. After making sure the door was close, Naruto dispelled the hinge. After putting the scrolls that contained his gears on the table, Naruto put on the bed and he covered himself with a blanket. It felt like a suit of armor against the cruel reality. As he tried to sleep, a memory come into his mind. Is a persona I fabricated? A persona? Asked Naruto. Yes. Sometime on missions, you have to be someone you are not in order to complete the mission. To be someone else? Naruto thought to himself, if he used the Hinge no Jutsu and become someone else, he could maybe try again to play with some kids in the park. Eventually, it did not matter. He should just focus to get to the land of waves next thing in the morning when he wakes up. It was better to leave before someone got the chance to find him. Kakashi had a hard time connecting to someone, emotionally too. After the Kyuubi attack, the death toll on the civilian and shinobi populations was high. The village had to put up a strong front while rebuilding their forces and keeping enemy nations from attacking them. Being an Umbu, it helped him deal with the pain. And after becoming a captain, it left him with very little time for anything else, as he was sent to missions to protect Konoha and get his mind off from anything else. Kakashi felt cursed. It was as if every close bond he ever made ended up dying, and that is why he stopped making friends. In Umbu, he didn't have to deal with this problem, at least as they were taught to have no emotions. Eventually, after years, it was Sandaime Hokage who had removed him from the Umbu and assigned him with various teams as tests, and in the end, he was assigned to Team 7. After finishing another day of missions with his team, he was again face to face with the Memorial Stone. Kakashi's steps slowed as guilt weighed down on him. Every bond and friends he ever made, or he was making, ended up dying with the names on this Memorial Stones. Kakashi felt like all of this was his fault, and if not for Sandaime Hokage being there for him, he probably would have followed in his father's footsteps. Now his sensei's son had left Konoha, and Kakashi felt like it was his fault again. Another person who was probably now dead because of him not being there. Kakashi stood before the stone, his experienced eyes tracing the name on the shiny stone surface. Namikaze Minato. I am sorry, sensei. He stood, his head bowed in shame. I failed you. His eyes went to another name. Uchiha Obito. I am sorry, Obito. For years, he had internalized every part of Obito's advice, his ideals of teamwork and friendship. He had viewed every situation through the lens of, what would Obito have done? And every failure with the shameful knowledge that Obito wouldn't have failed. If only he was here instead of me. Obito wouldn't have let Rin die. Obito wouldn't have let Naruto leave Konoha. Obito wouldn't have let Naruto grow up alone. His eye eventually traced the name of the last member of his team. Noera Rin. "I am sorry, Rin," he said. How long Kakashi stood there, he did not know. For so long, this memorial stone had formed the cornerstone of his existence. The sky turned gray, and then black as night descended on Konoha. As next day in the morning, come Naruto was ready to go. Meanwhile, a man with skin very pale, practically white, and his hair was long and black, wearing a cloak with hood to hide his appearance, was making his way towards the city in search of powerful shinobi for his own village. It was then when his eyes catch a blonde kid's face. It was more surprising when the kid left the place running at speed that should be impossible for his age. His face. I know I'd seen him before. Ha. Fate is so interesting. Don't you think, Jiraiya? He thought to himself. The man then phased through the ground, allowing him to travel after the boy without being detected by anyone. Naruto had been running to full speed to his destination, not wanting to encounter shinobi this time. Eventually, his stomach makes some sounds, remaining the blonde that he needed to eat. To his luck, he was close to a river containing fish. After some of his clones got enough they brought at the fire camp, 2 other clones have been making it. Eventually, after waiting a little longer, it was finally ready. As Naruto was enjoyed the fish, he couldn't help but to wish he had someone here to talk with. To his surprise, the wish was granted when a man was making his way to him. His skin was very pale, practically white, and his hair was long and black. His eyes were golden with slitted pupils, like that of a snake, and surrounded by purple markings. "Are of Hidden Leaf Village?" asked Naruto, already entering in a defense stance. "Please, Naruto-kun, there is no need for shouting or fighting." The man gently chided, not answering his question. "What do you want from me? And what is your name?" asked Naruto. It seems that everyone who he had met so far already know his name. Well, except for Kisame at first, but still it was weird because this was already the 3rd time. "And how do you know me?" added Naruto. "My name will come later. As for what I want, I don't want anything from you, Naruto-kun. I want you." Naruto shuddered dramatically and was about to respond loudly when he was interrupted. "I didn't mean it like that. I want you to join my village," he said. Naruto looked at him suspiciously. What kind of village would seek out a missing nin from Konoha and risk taking them in? One that is not the least bit concerned with what Konoha does in return. One that seeks out nuke nin that have been wronged by their former village and offers them sanctuary in its walls whether they wish to join or they just wish for a place to lay low, the Kage of an unknown village said. "What do you know about me?" asked Naruto. If this man knew what dangerous creature was sealed in him, then why would he risk his village by taking him in? "I know all about you, Naruto-kun." The Kage of an unknown village continued, demon container for the Kyuubi no Kitsune. "Why would you want to help a Jinchuriki me?" asked Naruto. "Well, because you kind of reminded me at your age," the Kage said. Before Naruto could ask more, the Kage continued. "I too wanted to be Hokage," he said, catching Naruto off guard. "I too was wronged by Konoha and cast aside like nothing." "You were Konoha shinobi?" "Not anymore. I am no longer affiliated with that place, and Naruto-kun, I can see in your eyes the pain of not knowing who you are, being without an identity. You too were wondering, who am I, and what am I supposed to do? I too want to know who or what I am." Naruto was speechless. This man was kind of right. He had been wondering this for a long time. "And that is why I founded my own village, so that skilled ninja would find their purpose in life without being beholden to the fickle and warmongering priorities of the 5 great shinobi countries. And if the shinobi staying behind my walls wish to help out every once in a while, or even join my village, who am I to complain?" This sounded tempting. Naruto had to stop himself from immediately accepting, remembering he first had another place to visit for now. "The council. I was the frontrunner for the position of the Yondaime, but it was stolen from me by that fool, Jiraiya's student. The council will never allow you to become Hokage, and if you were to return to Konoha, you would be locked up or taken by Danzo to be one of his emotionless tools." Naruto didn't know who this Danzo guy was, but there was no way he'd be some emotionless tool or locked up somewhere. "Wait, why would they do that?" I mean, yeah, I have the QB, but if anything, I bet the villagers are celebrating my absence. Naruto spat that last part out with some venom. Yes, the ignorant fools would react that way. But to the higher-ups, your role is more than being a prison. Naruto looked at him confused. You're not the only Jinchuriki in the world. And if other nations find out you are outside and alone, then they would all try to capture you. Explain the Kage. Would they really do this all over me? Asked Naruto. Kimogakure once tried to kidnap a Hyuga girl from Konoha in order to study her dojutsu, and maybe even worse things if they did succeeded. And if they did succeeded, this would have probably restarted the Third Great Ninja War. Explained the Kage. Then, after taking a break, he continued. They once tried to kidnap an Uzumaki girl to study her special chakra. He said, specifically not mentioning the time when this happened and who she was. At least not yet. An Uzumaki. Naruto repeated the words, still trying to process everything he was told. I can only imagine the Fourth Great Ninja War for a Jinchuriki, especially the one with 9 tails. The Kage said, all of this over me, but what about the Uzumaki you mentioned? Asked Naruto. You see, the process started when the first Hokage's wife, Mito Uzumaki, sealed the fox in herself. After that, the first Hokage gathered more tailed beasts and gave them to the other hidden villages, who then sealed them into other people, some willingly and some forcibly. And the only ones not treated as outcasts were the ones who were kept secret. The Kage smirked at Naruto's reaction. You see, you're not only a jailer, but a weapon to maintain the balance of power. Naruto couldn't believe his ears, and he didn't know what to believe anymore. This man gave him answers about Jinchuriki, but the more answers he got, more questions formed as well. Now, will you come with me? Asked the Kage. I don't know if I ever want to join another village, at least not yet, said Naruto, needing more time to think to all these new information he had been given. The Kage merely nodded. I understand. However, you're always welcomed. Your village? How did you say it was called? Asked Naruto. Otoge-cure, the village hidden in the sound. The Otokage said, giving the boy a map with notations and pointing to the map where to find the place. Thank you for the map. And did you do it? Naruto wanted to know. Did you find who and what you are? And what you want to do in this world? Asked Naruto, remembering what the man told him early and hoping to find an answer for himself on that regard. Not yet, but what I want is to acquire all Jutsu and grasp all of this world principles, said the Otokage. That a big goal. However, in order to obtain each and every Jutsu that exists and the principles behind them, I need a long, long time. Naruto nodded. And he who masters all is truly worthy of the title of ultimate being, the Otokage said. Naruto was now confused. What do you mean? What I mean is that if you're not satisfied with what you've had so far, just find other things and add them to yourself from here on out. That how I've been gathering all sorts of things and store the gained knowledge and abilities within myself, and then I undergo rebirth, evolving towards a new, more perfect me. I think I understood. If I come to your village, can you help me with this? Even if I can't become Hokage, I still want to become greater than the all Hokages. This would be a purpose I have. Greater than the Hokages, repeated the Otokage as Naruto nodded. I can help with that, he said. Cool. Then I promise I will come to see your village, said Naruto, excited. Excellent, the Otokage replied, turning his back to leave. Then we meet again there. Bye. Naruto wavered. After making more steps, the Otokage stopped and smiled to himself as he told the boy something that will guarantee that he doesn't forget about this. Your parent would have been so proud of you. I never got the chance to tell you about them, have I? Asked the Otokage as Naruto froze into place. Perhaps another time, said the Otokage before jumped away and vanishing into trees, leaving the boy there. He could have easily took the boy by force, but it was better if he would come on his own. And what was the most beautiful part in all of this conversation he had with the boy was that he didn't even need to lie. My parents, Naruto whispered to himself. Naruto's mind was in turmoil and upside down. He desperately wanted to know who his parents were. What orphan didn't? But now there were even more questions and answer which didn't let Naruto to think straight. The first Hokage, one of his role models, started a process that forced people into a fate where people are turned into weapons and made outcasts in their own village. And this Mito Uzumaki, first Hokage's wife, she was from his clan, and she was the one who started this. Naruto wasn't sure what to think. Why would they do this? The council, I was the frontrunner for the position of the Yondaime, but it was stolen from me by that fool, Jiraiya's student. The council will never allow you to become Hokage, and if you were to return to Konoha, you would be locked up or taken by Danzo to be one of his emotionless tools. The Yondaime Hokage was Jiraiya's student, unless there was another shinobi from Konoha called Jiraiya. And this Danzo guy wanted to make him an emotionless tool. Naruto couldn't help but to wonder why didn't he succeeded until now. Sandaime Hokage, maybe he was the one who protected him from this Danzo, but he also kept the secret of him being a Jinchuriki away from him for so long. It's true he is still a kid, but when was he going to tell him? And why wasn't the fact that he was a Jinchuriki kept secret from the village? While Naruto harbored some rather angry feelings towards the Sandaime, he couldn't hate him. He didn't believe that he would hide all that from him without an important reason. He didn't leave Konoha out of anger towards the Hokage, but out of temptation and anger towards the village as a whole. Right now, he needed to get to the Land of Waves, rest a while, and then go to the Otoge Cure to find more answers. As he was preparing to leave, Naruto couldn't help but to wonder about Otoge's philosophy. What a thick mist. I can't see anything, Naruto thought while running above the water. As he continued running, he finally saw a huge bridge under construction. After a long time, he was finally here. The Land of Waves. After getting to the ending of the bridge, Naruto climbed the walls close to the bridge, and he finally saw the place with his eyes. The buildings were built on docks, and trees could be seen grow, even in water. As he made his way into the town, he didn't feel happy as he thought he will be. People in the town emanate depression and fear. There was little food in the store, and most of the population had resorted to thievery. Naruto was took out of his thoughts when he felt someone tug on his leg. He soon realized that it was just a child begging for food. As a result, he gave the kid a handful of apples he got on his way. Good thing he unsummoned his backpack before he entered the city. Eventually, he remembered a deeper desire of why he come here. Naruto went to a local store to eat and get some information. There were some people easting there. Some seems to wear hoods to hide their appearance. Naruto eventually made his way there and commanded some food, but before leaving, he asked the man who served him, "Do you know anyone here having the name Uzumaki?" he asked. "No, it doesn't sound familiar," said the man. "Oh, okay, thank anyway," said Naruto, sounding a little disappointed. Naruto had some little hope there could be someone from his clan here, but after seeing this town, maybe he should just accept the truth. Maybe I was meant to be alone, Naruto thought to himself, but then stopped. No, he can't give up yet. He could go and ask more people. There is still hope, and even if he doesn't find anyone, at least he tried. Meanwhile, a person not too far away from Naruto listened to his question and chose to follow the boy. Naruto continued to explore the town in hopes of finding anyone who had a clue. Night. Nothing. He found nothing, only more depressing things. It seems that the Land of Waves is a nation located on an island near the Land of Fire. It does not have a hidden village, thus relying on seeking assistance from other hidden villages like Kanagakure. The Land of Waves has many rivers running through it and is famous for its mangroves, which are filled with all kinds of life forms. Though an isolated island, relying on shipping for commerce and trade, it was prosperous. What Naruto found out was that this changed when a man named Gato set his sights on it, breaking the people's will and monopolizing the shipping industry. That is why this place was so depressing. In his search, he was lucky to hear some man talking about a bridge. If this bridge was finished, then the things could change for this place. This seems to be a good thing at least. After exploring the forest, he saw a giant house built on a tree, but seeing it was well guarded, he chose not to go closer to the place. Eventually, he stopped in part of the forest afar of civilization. Seeing he was alone, he made some clones who continued the chakra control training. The workouts he had done in the past seemed to bear fruit, as instead of only 25 clones now, he has 40 clones that could mold chakra enough to be of use. As the clones were training, Naruto chose to read over some more jutsu from the Forbidden Scroll. Kuchios, Rashoman. Summoning, Rashoman. The user summons a large gate. The gate itself is designed to look frightening, with the gate's doors having a demonic face upon them. This is to intimidate onlookers, potentially warding them off. The gate's doors are tightly shut and solidly built, making it useful as a shield against most forms of physical attack. The stronger the attack, the more damage the attacker will do to themselves when they try and fail to break through the gate. There were two more better versions. Kuchios, Sunju Rashoman. Summoning, Triple Rashoman. The summoning, Triple Rashoman is an upgrade to the standard summoning, Rashoman, which, as its name suggests, summons not one, but 3 menacing Rashoman. The technique requires 2 summoning seals to be completed, and these gates serve the same function as the single Rashoman, but with triple the defense. The first gate takes the attack head-on, the second reduces the attack's power, and the third disperses the pressure, causing all attacks that come in contact with it to lose their power before they can be effective. The defensive capabilities of this technique are further boosted by the lack of hand seals required to perform this technique. Kuchios, Goju Rashoman. Summoning, Quintuple Rashoman. While one already boasting enormous defensive properties, with this technique the user summons 5 Rashoman gates to block an incoming attack. The defense is quite formidable, and with 5 gates, the user is also able to change the trajectory of an attack, as powerful as a tailed beast ball equipped with a Susanoo sword. The defensive qualities of this technique are further boosted by the lack of hand seals required to perform it. Naruto had no idea what a Susanoo sword was, but this jutsu seems to be a good idea the next day. He wanted to learn at least one of these gates. As Naruto finished reading the jutsu, something caught his eye. From a distance, he caught sight of someone in the woods. Something was hiding behind one of the large trees. In that moment, the person ran away. Naruto was able only to see the person was wearing a hood to covering the hair and face. "Hey, wait!" Naruto yelled, then quickly his clones went after the person while he sealed the scroll back. In the end, it seems no one would find anything.